Good.
I am so proud.
I was going to say, had a little Paul Rhodes there and Dan Lanning, but it's Monday morning on Hurrdat Sports Radio. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. What's up, DB?
Just drying out. How about you?
A lot of stuff going on this weekend. I mean, just in, Juan Soto.
Yeah, that
My guy got paid.
is unbelievable.
15 years to 765.
Okay, listen, so you know how things are all relative, right?
Yeah.
So my thing, like, especially after they announced the bowl bid, right?
Mm-hmm.
First kept secret ever. I'm just trying to find something I can do in the next 10 days to get like an extra $1,000.
Okay.
Like I just want to do some work.
Yeah.
Maybe, move some stuff, pack some stuff. I want somebody to pay me $1,000 cash.
Yeah.
Just so I have some spending money.
A little scratch in New York.
Yeah. Right?
Well, hey, you heard
This
it.
dude.
You heard it here. My guy DB is open for business.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Speaking engagements, whatever you got.
Yeah, like hey, there's not a better leaf blower in the world. You have some remnants from your neighbor's yards that you're like, man, these leaves are getting on my nerves. And you just want those things blown off?
You would hate my yard in the fall.
Listen.
You would hate it.
Put my head down and walk fast.
Just keep on trucking.
I'm dead serious too, because
So you're looking for $1,000.
and this dude's got $765 million.
Yeah. I'm going to do some math here real quick.
That is incredible. Again.
That's $750 million.
Again, what are we doing?
That's 3 times what A-Rod's contract was in Texas.
Do you know how many boxes
3
I could
times
move for $1,000?
How many boxes could you move for $765
Do
million?
you know how many boxes I would move for $765 million?
All of them. I'd move every box in the world.
Kind of a manual labor guy.
Yeah.
What else am I good at? I'm good at watching. I can watch kids.
Yeah. You can break down some tape.
Yep. I can watch film.
Yeah.
I don't know why anybody would pay me to watch film.
No, but you can. It's a thing you can do.
I can cook.
You can cook. You're a good cook.
Yeah, I love it.
What else?
That might be about it.
You're good with dogs.
Yep, I'm great with dogs.
Good with dogs.
Anybody need a 2-week dog sitter? Shoot, I'm gonna need a dog sitter. I'm gonna have to give the money away.
That's what you need the money for, is to pay the dog. So you need $2,000.
Yeah. You cannot pet that dog. You can't pet that dog. Yeah, so I'm like stressed.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was not a bad weekend.
Yeah, we a lot going on in sports.
Incredible.
We've
I take back my take on Kansas too.
What was that? Oh, on
I said I think
basketball.
they're gonna be okay.
They might still be okay. I will say though,
I'll tell you one thing they have to do.
What's that?
They can't play your guy.
Not my guy. I don't like him.
Can't play him.
Hunter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't play.
Here's my problem with Kansas is
my problem with Kansas.
So I watched them a couple times before the Creighton game, and then I watched them in that Creighton game, and I know what Creighton is defensively, right?
Oh, you know what else I could do?
What's that?
I can mow.
Not a ton of mowing going on this time of year.
Does somebody want like nice lines right before it gets cold?
Right before?
I could do that.
Have it all crisped up for Christmas?
I'm very good at using cruise control within the city too. So if you need rides, I could do that.
You could Uber for a couple weeks.
Could I?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't really know.
Would they pay me in enough time?
I don't know. I really don't know how any of that works.
I need them to break off. I need them to scratch it off on the 22nd.
As you're flying out, as you're getting out of Dodge.
Yeah, I'm not leaving until the 23rd. I'll work up until the last minute.
You got 13 days.
Even that morning.
13 days.
That's only like $80 a day.
You could figure that out. I bet you could make that Uber if you really wanted to. Or you could be like a DoorDasher, If you don't want to deal with people, you could just drop off food.
The funny thing is, I think you think I'm joking.
No, I don't at all.
I'm not joking.
I don't think you're kidding at all.
I am dead dog serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could do a little DoorDash.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't either.
Wish I could dance.
Dance?
Yeah, but then I would be perpetuating the stereotype of just running, singing, dance. I don't want to do that because I can't sing either.
You already got a rundown.
Not gonna.
You were running back.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean.
Okay.
That's in the job description.
Yeah.
Technically, you were a professional running back.
This dude.
So.
Shane. Get the dump button.
What'd I do?
I don't know.
You do sing on the show a lot.
Yeah, but it's awful. I just do it because I like to.
Well, so you like to sing, maybe wouldn't consider
And you know
yourself
one thing
a
I would never
professional
do,
there.
although I do it at my buddies.
What's that?
Holiday parties.
Sing in front of people?
Like karaoke.
Oh, yeah.
But
Let's go, baby.
That's usually like late at night. And he hasn't had that machine out in a couple of years.
You got some soda pops flowing at that point?
Uh-huh.
I'm just assuming because that increases everybody's willingness to karaoke.
Well, it's very quaint.
Yeah.
So
It's a nice, close setting.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're not like at a bar doing karaoke in front of strangers.
Never.
Yeah.
Once upon a time. But
Yeah.
I would that's no.
Not for you.
No.
I've done karaoke a few times.
Yeah, not my style.
That's all right.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody.
More people, the less apt I am to be there.
Much like Juan Soto's contract, not for everybody.
Which, by the way, I saw my guy Brett yesterday.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How's he doing?
Good human-to-human interaction. He's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love him. He's my favorite.
Just playing favorites over here?
No, he's like just a good dude.
You know who apparently
So I'm worried about his son is like cutting weight.
Oh, yeah. Wrestling?
If you're 6 foot,
Okay.
he may be over 6 foot. Say 6 foot minimum.
Okay.
How much do you think he should be weighing?
He's an athlete, correct?
See,
So normal, athletic,
quarterback.
high school kid, not a lineman, I'd say 6 foot, you should probably be at least 180.
Yeah, he's trying to get that. He's 150.8.
Oh, God. That's skinny.
Yeah.
That's lean.
Stuck between 50 and 57 world.
Yeah, I bumped that thing up, brother. That's pretty lean. 150 at 6 foot is whew.
Yeah. So we'll see. He's really good. He's been to state.
Yeah.
Yeah. Central City's good.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah, that's pretty lean though.
Yeah. So some of my guys,
My guy needs to have a couple sandwiches,
not bad.
Make a couple,
Yeah.
Maybe not as much of a favorite for you.
Less sandwiches than Hunter Dickinson.
Yeah, Hunter Dickinson maybe.
He just doesn't look fit.
He also just doesn't look like he gives something that rhymes with fit.
Well played.
That dude doesn't look like he gives a what.
Yeah. Speaking of which, not giving a what? Do you think Nicholas Saban knows that he is not coaching at Alabama?
It comes off like a huge homer.
So how hard would that be to shake though? Before I get all judgy McJudge, because I don't want to.
Yeah.
Because he did make some salient points.
Yeah. I think it would be really...
Was it the crimson suit or?
The crimson suit did not help the unbiased. Don't think I didn't notice that. I'm like, Bud, Kalen DeBoer's the coach now, right? Maybe he's just ready.
So he low-key does not do DeBoer any favors.
No, he doesn't at all.
And I would guess it's intentional.
Oh, it's got to be.
I mean, he's very self-aware.
Yeah. It's not. He doesn't say much by accident, it doesn't seem like.
Kind of like Urban not doing Day any favors.
No. The only thing he's done is like, oh, I'm not coming back, guys. I would never.
Hey, I know there's been many rumors and speculation. I've been in that office.
Mostly from my agent.
That's exactly how it looks, too.
Yeah?
So you can't see it, but he has like 4 or 5 Steelers balls, too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We're looking at Kirk Ferentz's office on BTN right now. But
why is this on BTN? Well, they were probably watching hoops in here.
Yeah, and I didn't have time to get the old iPad today.
Yeah, what was the delay? And listen, I don't want to judge because you do more work when it comes to setup.
Yeah.
Like, I don't do anything.
That's all right.
Although I shouldn't.
No,
because you want it to work.
Correct. Shane thought that was funny.
Yeah, I don't. Like, I'll let you know, like, if I'm joking, that no.
But you're winning.
No.
But you're winning.
But you don't give yourself a ton of wiggle room with the setting up of the camera.
Yeah, I usually get here a few minutes earlier than I did today. It was late.
Hey, you responded early. Like, I talked to you before 6.
Yeah, I was late getting out of the house today.
But you don't normally text back.
No, sometimes, yeah. So usually I just like watch the TikTok and then I move on. Because that's usually what you're sending me at 5:45 in the morning is a TikTok. The first time you did it, I saw a text message from DB, and I go, oh, he can't make it this morning, something like that. And it's like, nope, just a TikTok.
Yeah, I don't do that.
Yeah.
Like, knock on wood.
Yeah.
I'm gonna find a way to show.
I appreciate that.
I'm not that dude.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I just worry, I think like, oh no, something happened. Like, not just, oh, I can't make it, whatever. Because I know if you're sick or whatever, you'll be here. But
Sick? What's that?
Some people that get under the weather.
No.
Not here in Omaha though, because it's beautiful outside.
It's a mindset.
60 degrees in December.
How about so back to so he said some things I was kind of like vibing with.
Yeah, he's not totally.
Then he would throw me a couple curveballs, but then he kept saying "we."
He's not totally wrong.
I'm like, you can't say "we."
Yeah, like I get it's probably hard to separate, right? You don't just turn it off one day. Like if you stopped coaching at Westside, you'd probably have a hard time, especially with guys that you coach still there.
Yeah.
It probably takes, 3 years to get through all the guys that you know. So I don't know if 3 years from now, or in Alabama's case, probably 2 years from now, when all their guys are in the NFL or transfer portal, if Saban will be a little bit less attached.
Yeah.
Because he probably still knows a lot of these guys.
Apparently Nate's son's pretty slight too.
Right? I just...
6'1", 140. Really, Nate?
That is a beanpole.
Dang.
That's real skinny.
140?
Let me tell some of these guys how to eat.
He might have one of those metabolisms.
It's true. A lot of the tall, skinny guys have that.
That is incredible.
Supersonic metabolism that I never had to worry about that.
Were you at what point were you over the talking through of the format and you just want them to get to it?
Pretty early.
So it wasn't as clunky as some of the releases had been. I was kind of okay with that.
It wasn't bad at the start. I appreciated them going through it because I do think there was some confusion from people that aren't like in it every day.
So like the rankings versus the selections?
The rankings versus the seedings.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
So I thought that was good. If you're one of those people that is like, I don't really care about the early stuff, like when they start releasing them in October, I thought that was fine to go through it. I thought maybe they spent a little too much time on it, but in general, I understood why they did it. I didn't have as big of a problem with the broadcast as some people did. Like I thought it was fine. And then I thought they got to the release in a reasonable amount of time. Now then they talked about it for like 3 hours afterward, right? But that's kind of what they do. I didn't have a huge problem with it though. I don't know. I'm also not that picky about those things.
Yeah, I'm not either.
I know some people, whether it's like NCAA, March Madness selection shows, things like that, they get a little, sideways on it and like just release the whole bracket and then talk about it. It's like, I don't know. It's a television program. I get it. They do how they do it. It doesn't really bother me. I'm pretty low. I mean, I'm sure that's shocking. I'm low maintenance about things like that, at least. There's other things I am not low maintenance about, as you know.
So, level of surprise. Like any hot takes?
From the bracket?
Do you not know what we're talking about?
Yeah, about the college football playoff bracket.
Yeah, well, you're like for the bracket? Yes, the bracket.
I don't know. I didn't think there was anything crazy.
No.
I was a little surprised they gave Boise State the 3.
Yeah.
Like that's
after Arizona State hammering.
Yeah.
State?
I mean, Arizona State looked really good.
You big Scatterboo guy, aren't you?
I mean, so I think I tweeted this out. I had this is how I know I'm getting old, right? Like I had this conflict.
Older, it's all relative.
Yeah. This is I'm aged.
You can sneeze without snapping a rib.
Some days.
Or tinkling.
That's true. I don't tinkle when I sneeze, which is a plus. I'm going to hold on to that.
I am old.
There's very little involuntary urination on my part, which I think is really important.
Yeah. Save it. Should have moved on from that. That's fine. Sometimes I just say things. It's fine.
But so I'm watching that. I think it was the first big Scatterboo run where he breaks like 6 tackles. And I'm sitting here and my initial reaction is like, oh man, what a great run. And then the old man comes like popping up in the back of my head and he goes, what terrible tackling.
Yeah. So how pot committed would you be though?
Trying to bring that guy down?
Yeah.
I mean,
I'll try to run through his face though.
Yeah.
I'm dead serious.
You're a little Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah, like face. So I would be benching myself because I would be like launch, leave your feet, and it's everything that I would not teach.
Yeah.
But it would be hard to pick a spot and just grab skin and run the feet, right? Like,
yeah. Just hope for the best.
He just is not giving you much to hit.
He's, for a guy that runs that aren't as that big, is like pretty slippery.
Is somebody smoking and blowing it through the vent?
I don't know. We might be on fire here. It's hard. I don't know.
No,
there is something. It smells like burnt toast. You're not having a stroke or anything. Like, it smells like burnt toast.
Whoa, is that a thing?
Oh, yeah. You don't know that?
I've never had a stroke.
Yeah, but it's like out there as what? I mean,
Wow.
sometimes hard to tell, DB.
Oh.
Oh, man.
Hello, friend.
That was one of those joke Tourette's moments. Should have kept that one in the holster.
It's ridiculous.
So there is some.
Okay.
Sometimes when you deal with, like, I've got older parents, right? So sometimes when you're dealing with elderly people, you learn the signs of certain things.
Mm-hmm.
When them smelling burnt toast out of nowhere is a bad sign.
Yeah.
Yeah. It does smell like burnt. So it's either we're both having a stroke or there is a smell coming through.
Let's hope it's not the first thing.
Yeah, that would be awkward for everybody, I think. What would Shane do if we're both just up here?
Leave. Shane would be the type of person to like just step over us.
He'd probably, like, I think after he left, call 911 and be like, "Hey, I was driving by this place."
Or my favorite, when it gets kind of stressful and he goes.
And then he's gonna, as he walks out, he's gonna say, "Good morning."
No, I just text Sasha. I said, you might want to come down here.
Oh, that's
That's
100% what he would
as
do.
he leaves. He'd probably go outside, hit the vape, and be like, I gotta go.
I think I lost these two. What do you want me to do? And she'd go in typical Sasha fashion. I'll be there in a minute.
I'll be there in a minute. Put best of on until we revive them. That's 100% what that's 100% what would happen. He would give you the shoulder shrug too.
Oh, for sure.
He's like the guy that Jordan loses to in quarters. Just
well, okay. So of the games this weekend, and I'll even let you give college basketball because there were some doozies.
Oh yeah. That Kentucky Gonzaga game was bonkers.
So I think Gonzaga's pretty good.
I do too.
But I don't know if I like Kentucky.
I don't either. I don't know what to make of them yet. I think is maybe where
I do like Pope's temperament though.
Yeah.
Yeah, he gives. I mean, of the jars of cares given,
yeah,
ain't a lot.
I don't really know what to do with him yet because, like, I'm going to need a couple years on him.
See what he puts together because he went and got a roster.
Bunch. Yeah, he went and got a bunch of dudes. I think he's a good coach. I don't know. Like, Kentucky's a place that can eat you alive, and I just don't know.
So you liked Kentucky Gonzaga better than Duke?
Yeah, I think so.
Louisville. How about Louisville just letting that get away?
I mean,
it's good to see Louisville actually playing well.
Yeah, I think so.
I think basketball is better when Louisville plays.
It's been a minute too. They've been on the struggle bus since Pitino.
What was my favorite text? And by the way, watching that Clemson SMU, but how about how none of us knew what happened?
Yeah, because
no one in that room,
because
8 guys knew what happened.
Clemson, it happened so fast because SMU goes down, ties the game.
Yeah, and
we're having this conversation. Should they go for 2 or go for 1?
Lloyd almost owed me lunch.
Really?
Well, I said they were down 14 or 10. And I go, SMU's coming back to win.
It was more than that, wasn't it? Wasn't it 24-7?
Yeah, it might have been.
I think they were down 17.
I was like, they're coming back.
And that was first half too.
And about every 10 minutes he'd go, "You might be right, DB.
They're down 14.
You might be right.
They're down 7."
He's so quiet, isn't he? Something?
He is. Yeah.
He's a quiet dude.
But yeah, so we're sitting there, we're watching this play out, and we're like, okay, SMU. It's like 16 seconds left, right? SMU scored. We're talking about should they go for the win, go for the tie, whatever.
I said go for 2.
That's what I said. Man, go for it. You got all the momentum. Just finish this thing. And maybe they should have, although I don't know if that changes the outcome.
I can't remember. What Coach Frank say?
I don't think he answered.
Yeah, he had lots of other jokes.
Yeah, I don't think he answered.
Sarcastic son of a gun.
Yeah.
He's hilarious.
Yeah, I don't think he answered. I think everybody else said go for 1. You and I said go for 2, and I don't think Frank answered.
Yeah. So, I mean, and then.
But no, we just looked up, and Clemson
everybody's like running around celebrating.
Yeah, Clemson. And we're like, what happened? So we sit there and rewind the thing because it happened so fast.
Yeah.
It didn't even feel like there were any commercials in there.
No.
We saw SMU tie it, and then we see Clemson celebrating, and we're just looking at each other like, what happened?
Dead dog serious.
Yeah, it was wild. I'm glad SMU got in though. I think SMU is good.
I was stunned.
I was too. I didn't think they were going to get in.
I was absolutely stunned.
Happily though, I was thrilled.
And I know you're going to laugh, and maybe it's just because it's a Texas thing, because you're not vibing with them.
Mm-hmm.
It looks to me,
mm-hmm.
It looks like Georgia's the best team in the country. I get it. Hot take, crazy.
You know what my hot take is?
What?
I still think Notre Dame might be the best team in the country.
But I'm on Notre Dame.
I know you are. But
I'm on Notre Dame.
I'm taking
Notre Dame is really good, and they have a great draw. That secondary will be very formidable against. But I've been on. People, oh, you just love Rezac. No, it's not it. I do, but that's not why I like Notre Dame.
No, Notre Dame looks like. I think Notre Dame.
You just like Xavier Watts. No, I do, but that's not why I like Notre Dame. Oh, you just like Freeman. I do.
I do like Freeman.
That's not why I like Notre Dame.
I think they've looked like the best team in the country for the longest stretch of time.
I don't know if anybody would agree with you. That's a hot take.
Yeah, I think so. But that's
because even I wouldn't agree with you.
Yeah, I think they've looked like since about maybe midway point of the season.
Unsee. When you're asking me about the lines, It's hard for me to unsee Georgia whipping Texas at the point of attack.
100%.
And they did it again.
And I know it's really hard for some people to unsee Northern Illinois for Notre Dame. And I
don't even think people remember that.
I think they do.
No. Notre Dame is a monster.
They're a wagon. I think they've looked the best out of anybody in the country for the last 6 weeks.
Wow, wagon though?
They're killing. Listen, I know that we don't think much of the Naval Academy or Army. Army's a good football team.
Well, they showed you.
Yeah, like everybody loved Tulane.
Tulane's uniforms are pretty sweet.
Everybody loved Tulane. Some are all staying in Tulane, by the way. And Army just waxed them.
So So are you all in on Oregon? Did you come away thinking more about Penn State?
Penn State.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm like, how is Oregon letting Penn State score like this?
That's what I mean. I'm like, I thought it was more. Well, okay, I misunderstood your question. I thought it was more about Oregon being closer to Penn State than I did Penn State being closer to Oregon.
Yeah, we need to talk about that.
We'll get to that and plenty more. There's new head coaches everywhere, including Orlando. Not that that's a big deal for anybody around here. That's DBM Ravi Lulla, more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Welcome back. Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. What's so funny, DB?
My man, Yuri.
Oh, yeah.
So he and I feel like we've been together forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm I think he's in Iowa. And I know what he does for a living, and sometimes he doesn't always. Like we just been together since I've been doing. The dude is funny, like just low key.
He goes, "I'm glad I made it in time to catch the involuntary urination talk with what Damon said. I know the pain."
I was kind of joking, like that hasn't happened to me. But one thing that is aggravating me.
Yeah,
this is maybe TMI. I'm sorry, Bill. Sorry, Chris. That's what you get with me, though.
I think that's what they pay us for.
I don't know why so up until like 2 years ago, going to the bathroom when I got up wasn't the first thing that I had to do. Now it is every morning.
Immediately?
Yeah. It's kind of bugging me.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just like to mind my own business. I don't want to have to get up.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, it's the first thing I've always done when I got up.
I never understood that.
Yeah. I wake up. Usually, if I don't have an alarm set, the thing that wakes me up is I have to go to the bathroom.
Well, it's good that you get up.
Yeah, it's better than the alternative for sure. When Raggy was a puppy, he used to fall asleep because dogs, like when they're actually going and like peeing on something, they stand up, they do the whole thing. He would fall asleep, and he'd literally, like, there was one time he literally wet the bed, like he was out cold. And just started peeing. I was like, bro, what is happening?
Did you have a warming blanket?
Yeah, all of a sudden I was like, what is
seriously, because sometimes that'll happen.
I don't know.
Like a heating pad?
No, I thought you meant like it felt like a warming blanket when he started peeing. No, I think
that's gross.
I thought you were making a joke. I was like, oh, man. DB's funny sometimes. But it looked like it seriously just looked like he was a little kid that just peed the bed. It was because he woke up like startled. He didn't know what was happening either.
I remember I used to think that people that look like me didn't let their dogs in the bed.
Yeah,
but That's not.
To be fair, I don't know a lot of people that look like you that have Frenchies either. No judgment. I just, I think we're just breaking stereotypes all over the place.
Didn't I give you one of those bands that Mike sent?
You did.
Are you wearing it?
No, I was paying. It's in my bag. I was paying a lot of attention to
See,
the
I'm wearing this. GWCCSA.
grace, wisdom, courage, compassion, self-awareness.
You lack all of those.
I'm pretty self-aware.
Hey, look. Snap that thing. What the world is wrong with you, man?
Still diabetic.
Wow.
That's the joke I'm making.
Yeah, so I have to go back.
Scattaboo sounds like a fake name. Can I just say that?
So he runs it.
Yeah.
Like quite a bit. He is not afraid to let the world know that
He's about that life.
Yeah.
It
was funny too, because after his post game, of course, Micah. That's the only position in the country that's not even debatable. You're not the best running back in the country. That's how he said it.
I mean, to be fair, Micah's right on that one.
So you clearly would take.
I take John T and probably Caleb Johnson over them both.
Caleb Johnson.
I'm probably taking both of them over.
So this is dumb.
Yeah.
I'd probably take Caleb over Janty.
I don't know that it's dumb. I know you prefer the way Caleb Johnson runs.
I do.
Right? So I get it.
I do.
They're stylistically different. It's hard to look at the production and be like, 2,600 yards, whatever. That's for 2,500. That's pretty
they're
good.
both nice.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
They're both.
We're starting from the place of they're both.
As we saw yesterday.
Yeah.
And even this is exactly what I told Caleb. We were watching Texas, Georgia, Saturday night. And it's getting ready to go to overtime. I said, if this game goes into overtime, Georgia wins because they're learning how to run the ball.
Yeah, ETN. I mean, with lots of guys.
ETN, he made the difference in that game. Can
you believe? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but can you believe when Carson Beck comes into that game? That ball is going to ETN.
Yeah.
Like, what's Texas doing?
Yeah,
he can't lift his arm.
My man Aaron was like, "Hey, you think they'll keep Georgia out because they got a hurt starting quarterback?"
A lot of people said that. That dude.
But the thing that didn't make that funny though is Georgia was the team that got left out last year, or Georgia wasn't in.
Yeah.
Georgia was a 6 last year.
Yeah. So that injury, I think that's the exact same injury that Brock Purdy had. I think his elbow blew up. I don't think it's a shoulder.
No, I know.
Like I think
he had the ice on the. There's a lot of ink, man.
Yeah. You wouldn't guess that from his face, probably.
No, he kind of has that look.
He looks like a nerd.
Like an ostrich.
Yeah.
I like an ostrich.
He's got a lot of Mike Glennon to him.
Wow. Just kind of particular.
That's who he reminds me of.
Very, very particular.
He's got a long neck. It looks like Mike Glennon. I could have thrown a Napoleon Kaufman your way. He had a long neck.
I was a big nappy guy.
Merton Hanks, he had a long neck.
Big Merton Hanks guy.
I liked Merton Hanks. I liked his dance that he did when he went in the end zone.
Merton Hanks go to college?
Ooh, I only know him as a Niner. I don't have this one.
Iowa.
There you go. That's why you like him.
This dude.
Why are you just sitting here complimenting Kirk Ferentz's office? I just assumed you had an affinity for the Steelers because he had
right
because he had the memorabilia in his office.
So I don't know. Like I could be talked off of this. 888-638-4876. I'm sure everybody has their hot takes on who they like in college football and who's the best team in the country. For some reason, I trust Georgia the most in big games. Is that crazy?
No. You've seen it the most with them. That makes sense. I think it's hard to separate.
You know who I've never liked? Never. Not all year.
Who?
Relative to their talent.
Georgia?
No. I just said I do like Georgia. What's the matter, man? You got... Wow, I about got kicked off. Do you have something wrong with what's in your ears?
I do tend to get a wax buildup.
Wow. Shane, milliseconds away from getting booted.
It's a good thing that you don't have the same condition I do.
That was incredible. I'd have just grabbed my bag, put the computer in, zip that thing up.
That thing wet. Okay, who have you not liked?
So if that was to happen, I would text Sasha.
Yeah. Be like, yeah.
She'll be
I would
like,
text Austin because I say we're probably not doing bites today,
and also you're going to need to get down here.
and you're gonna need to get down here.
Yeah.
Who have you not liked all year compared
Relative to
to
their
their talent? It's not Georgia. We know that. I don't remember. It's not Texas, is it?
Oh, Ohio State.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they're especially on the back end.
I just don't get it.
On the defense, they should be better compared to what their talent is.
And so maybe I'm just saying what I want to see, but I told you at the beginning of the season, I said even with the upper echelon, the teams that seem the most cohesive will be the teams that I'm riding with.
Mhm.
Ohio State does not seem like that team
At all.
Do you know who does?
Who?
And everybody hates on them?
Who?
Clemson.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
But
Yeah,
people hate if you just watch Clemson,
pretty cohesive.
and I get it with the record, right?
Yeah, they've dropped some games
But
in a not crazy ACC.
people say, "Oh, they got boat raced by Georgia." Hey, go back and watch that game.
Yeah,
And that was early.
yeah, super early, and it took them a little while. Like they hung around for a while.
Clemson has kind of this. They kind of have this like moxie to them, where they're pretty cohesive.
Yeah,
Notre Dame seems like a tight knit group.
So that's the one I would go to. Is Notre
Yeah.
Dame.
Georgia seems like they're together,
Mhm.
and I would say so does Penn State.
Yeah, I just don't think Penn State's that good. That's my problem.
Yeah, but so what's Oregon?
I think Oregon's a little bit what we've been talking about all year.
You realize Oregon's undefeated, right?
I do. I understand that.
Yeah.
I also understand that they've played in several games. Not several. They've played in a few games that could have gone the other way, and that's basically what happened to everybody else in the country. Kudos to them for figuring it out, for sure. But it's not like they've been just running roughshod over their entire schedule.
What seed would you have rather been if you weren't going to be 1 through 4?
If I'm not going to be 1 through 4, I mean, everybody says they like the 5 seed. I don't know if the matchups make the most sense there for me. I kind of like
The 6?
I do kind of like the 6. I mean, I know Boise's good, but they're not that scary.
It's weird. They're going to have to redo a ton.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. Coming up next, we'll continue more Hurrdat Sports Radio here on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're here on the Pillar Exterior stage. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla, wrapping up hour number 1. You can join the show. Give us a call, 888-638-4876, or you can be like all of our dear friends chiming in on the chat, as so many of them do every morning. We appreciate all you guys.
Chat is wild.
Yeah, it is. I love it. Our chat is it's a little off the chain. I appreciate it, though.
Did you see my man, Denny?
Oh,
We clearly aren't offending people yet.
No.
Did you tweet out his picture from Friday?
I retweeted it, yeah.
I got to find. Oh, he texted to me. I should just retweet it. But
Yeah.
I didn't feel comfortable retweeting it.
Yeah, why not?
Nobody would get it. It needs context.
That's why it's funny, though.
Dude, the crock pot, tofu. You got a chef's hat on. I was in tears.
It had the whole thing.
So that's our Denny guy.
Yeah.
He does look like a Denny.
He's hilarious. Listen,
No, that's not the Dennis Denny that I don't like. That's a different guy.
Oh, that's a
and
different
that's
guy.
not even his real name. I just call him
Right.
Denny.
Yeah.
But
This actually is.
So this DP
Yeah.
is why he wanted us to not call him that name, because that's his real name.
Right. Yeah. No,
So-
I know.
So he
I
wanted
know the real.
He wanted the distinction between Denny and Dennis, because
Yes.
he's like, not all of us are like that. This guy, this DP, like I've known. I mean, you got to go back to 15 years.
Yeah.
More than that. One of the first guys that helped me spearhead cleaning up Northwest.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, good. Yeah, good dude.
Yeah, I met him this year in the press box at Nebraska, and then we've actually had lunch. I like Denny a lot.
Yeah,
good dude.
So I need to learn how to like Photoshop and do that stuff. I should just take a quick tutorial.
Yeah, you can learn anything on the internet.
Yeah, but I wouldn't get anything done. Like how like
you would just make.
I would do huddle, and I would watch film, and I would do that.
You just make memes all day.
It was hilarious.
Yeah, it was good. It was really funny.
But anyway,
That's all right. We know we appreciate our listeners. They're very active participants of the show, which I love.
Apparently, David loves the fact that you go all in.
What did I do?
I'm gonna start
What did I do?
Well, because it's Monday morning, 30 minutes in, and Robbie already going in on DB.
Oh,
Status quo. That's fine.
You know what's funny though is
you're a gump and you get away with it. That's hilarious.
No, the funny also Ryan just retweeted his favorite graphic from the show. I think Chris Gorman did this one for us. The one with the unicorn hippo and when we were talking about narwhals and stuff.
Yeah. Again, something that would need context.
No, that's why it's funny though. Is the lack of context. People are just like, "What the ever-loving bleep is that?" And then they have to listen to the show to find out.
I felt like I talked to that dude all weekend, and I never saw him once.
Who?
Ryan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That happens. I text him quite a bit. I was trying to have lunch with him, but he got busy.
Always.
Yeah.
So I think I called him. Was it Friday? Yeah, I called him Friday, and he like has people talking in the background. I was like, "Are you zooming?
Do I need to let you go?" It's like,
and he goes, "Yeah, let me just mute these guys." I was like, "Wow, do your thing." But he was one of the few guys like that. You know how sometimes you just have to be that guy to know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And so I had this story to tell.
Yeah.
And I wanted to tell it fast. And he's like one of the few people that would have got it. And I was like, I got to tell this to somebody, otherwise my head will explode. So anyway, so back to Clemson and this whole team unit. So of the
cohesiveness,
like, don't you think that's a thing?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I don't like. That's one of the things I didn't like about Alabama all year.
I still can't believe they're belly aching.
Yeah, I mean, you lose to Vandy in Oklahoma. Like, you don't have a lot to talk about.
Been nice if we were playing Oklahoma.
That'd have been cool.
Yeah.
We got BC. That's a thing, I guess. It's fine.
Almost took a visit to BC.
Did you?
Yeah. They had halfway up there.
Just for funsies?
Yeah. So right when they offered Rezac, we knew another one was coming.
Yeah.
And it was like, I don't know, man. It's kind of far.
Yeah.
My sister hated Boston.
Really?
Yeah. Hated it. She used to work for the Globe. Just all out on Boston. All out. Now she's up in New York, so we could go see her. She was at she worked for Bloomberg.
I'd like to go visit Boston.
Yeah, I did love it. I went to a Scholastic News Conference back when I was working for the district.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was. There were lots. I was uncomfortable.
Really?
Yeah, and it's hard, like.
Yeah, you're way more comfortable in places than I am.
Especially if I'm not in my own area.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because nobody's gonna say anything to me, right? So I could just be nuts.
Move unencumbered.
Sure. That's interesting.
What?
Because I think of encumbered as like bound by something physical.
Oh. Yeah, it's more metaphorical in a sense.
You don't say. Wow, this dude.
I don't think anybody's actually physically restraining you. Not very often, although maybe sometimes they should. You know what's funny?
Not you.
For as much like
not you.
You know, David says I'm going in on you early. Having spent time around you and your other friends, I'm by far the nicest one to you.
I told you that.
But then you bellyache all the time about me being mean to you.
I don't even know. That's why I don't go out. That's why I don't go anywhere. Everybody, oh, you're excited to go to New York. I said, I'm a homebody, man. I don't want to go. I don't want to pack for 5 days. I don't like, contrary to popular belief, nobody's nice. You saw that clearly.
I'm the nicest one by far.
I think it's just me. I think I invite negativity.
I think you search out people that are a little mean to you.
It's probably not true.
Just enjoy the sarcasm a little bit,
isn't it? It's incredible, and it's unnecessary. Like I don't even have to say anything. It's unnecessary.
What did Freud say? Easy target.
Yeah, he's a trip.
He is.
Mr. Sarcasm.
He's super funny though, because I think him and I have a lot of similarities in the sense of we'll be like super, super sarcastic and whatever. And then especially in front of people, and then he'll have you on like a side to side and be like super genuine.
Yeah.
And you're just like, I'm so confused right now.
I love that dude.
Good guy. But it's pretty funny though.
It's not.
And I'm like,
it's actually not.
I was like, I think I do this.
I can't remember. I sent him some sideways text.
Yeah.
And he didn't really say anything. But and he said it was because he didn't understand it.
Yeah.
But of course he showed everybody once I turned out to be wrong. Hey, let me show you his text.
Look at what DB said.
He just Checkers chest. That's why you got to keep the wolves out of the hen house.
What? So
Speaking of which,
yeah.
Emmett Johnson coming back to Nebraska.
Listen.
Keep the wolves out of the hen house.
Listen.
Keep the wolves out of the hen house.
I thought there was
a lot of bad. I said this on
irreparable damage. What happened?
Go listen to Benning Bites.
I know. Listen to the show. We both said, hey, you're gonna have some guys maybe test the market. Don't write them off.
Yep. Lot of bad advice.
So it may not have it also may not have been all the stupid rumors you heard about, people coming out here.
You don't have to say STUPI.
No, they're stupid.
You can't say that in our house.
Well, I'm not in your house.
Good point.
I'm in Bill's house.
The house that Bill built.
Like,
I bet Bill wouldn't say stupid.
No, but he's not going to get mad at me for it, especially when things are actually stupid. It's stupid for all these burner accounts.
Do you know who would say stupid?
Who?
Sasha.
100%.
With an expletive or two.
Yeah, yes, definitely. I was going to say that. I was like, you'd have to drop a couple words, so all you'd hear on air is stupid. But no, it is stupid when you've got these people coming out here on, message boards and Twitter and these burner accounts where they're pretending to know things about situations. They're making these claims about coaches and players, and they don't know what they're talking about. Oh. They don't know what they're talking about. If you would listen to those people, you'd have thought Emmett Johnson not only would never come back to Nebraska, but would burn this place to the ground on the way out. Yep. Guess what didn't happen? Any of that. Guess who's going to play for Nebraska this year or next year? Emmett Johnson. Yep. So maybe the sky isn't falling. Maybe we were right. Like, hey, guys might test the market a little bit. And if they get some bad advice, Nebraska's going to say, hey, it's okay. If you think that value's out there, go see what your value is.
I still think,
and we'll tell you what you're worth.
I still think this is my gut.
Mm-hmm.
I still think they'll get one or two back, but they're going to lose another couple.
Oh, for sure.
It's about to hit.
Yeah, I think that's a totally reasonable expectation. I don't know how you can remove 50 guys from the roster and not have a few you'd rather not.
Yeah.
But it is what it is, and I tend to think, especially this year, where you're going to. The transfer portal is going to be a cluster this year.
I just want to this is the caregiver in me.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't do it with just Nebraska guys. I would do it with young people in general.
Mm-hmm.
And across all sports, I just have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
Take it from a guy that overreacted, made some decisions, didn't have necessarily what he wanted to in line.
Mm-hmm.
They had to pay the price, right? Don't do that.
Yeah. Have a plan.
Have a sense of what you want to do if you're going to make a decision. It's Freudian. Wow. If you're going to make a decision.
Yeah. There's people even in regular life, right? There's people in my wife's in the culinary industry. There's people in that industry that will just leave their job, just quit with no plan in place, and I've never understood it. And it happens in other industries too, but it happens quite a bit in hers, where people just walk out. No plan, no job lined up. And I'm like, what?
Just emotional.
Yeah, it's like, that would never occur to me.
So why does that always happen in the food industry?
Because it's stressful. It's a stressful industry.
People just up and leave.
Yeah.
That's happened to Vers.
It
happens all the time.
I think it's a stress thing. If you're not cut out for it, you'll break and you'll leave. You'll just walk. And it's a place that kind of attracts people that rev a little high. And so if you're already revving high, something goes the way you don't want it to go, boom.
Yeah.
Bounces. But I don't understand that. And I get a little bit more out of 18 to 22-year-olds. They're trying to figure life out a little bit, but they should listen to you. Take a beat, get a plan together.
And not everybody that talks to you has their best interests at heart.
Yeah. We saw it with Ryan Nemhard.
It's like an easy interest. Pay attention to the pronouns that people use when they're talking to you.
Yeah.
It's used for me, just over time, 50 years of experience, really only 46 since I could communicate. Pay attention to pronouns people use when they talk to you. We, me, us, I, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's telling.
Coming up next, we're going to talk to Sam McKewon, Omaha World-Herald, here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're joined now by Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald. Sam, how are you this morning?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Hi, Sam. How are things?
We're doing great.
I'm all right. Yeah, it's nice out, and we got a busy week ahead of Husker sports, Creighton sports, all kinds of stuff.
Hey, so let me get back to yesterday, Sam, real quick, because I like the fact sometimes when you go topical and we're like not in it, I always love to, not that I don't any other time, because when you are in it, but just watching the gamesmanship of the CFB and the reveal and the playoffs. I liked a lot of what Saban said. Did you have a hard time listening and separating that he once was in the SEC conference or that he was once the head coach of Alabama? LSU for that matter.
No, I don't know that I had that hard of a time.
Like real time,
it.
I meant.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think on some level, because Alabama is the team that was left out, of course, he's thinking about his players and his former players and sort of the school that he still kind of represents. Let's be honest. He's still pretty involved in Alabama down there. What I would say is that the commentary about non-conference scheduling is sort of a distraction non sequitur that has nothing to do with why Alabama was left out of the playoff. They didn't schedule that hard of a non-conference schedule, and they played 4 games in the non-conference, and it wasn't a very hard non-conference schedule, and they won all of those games. The reason that Alabama's not in the playoff is because they lost at Vanderbilt and Oklahoma, and neither team is what you would call outstanding. Those are games that in past years Alabama probably would have won. And so I think there's a kind of sourness today from that league, and it's not surprising. Every other league is expected to accept results and put up with it, whereas the SEC, when they don't get what they want, immediately threatens action and says, well, this is going to have consequences down the road. And that's just kind of how they operate. I think, Alabama and Greg Sankey can simmer in their juices, so to speak, and the committee can stand on its work and move forward. I totally understand, though, the idea that Alabama's schedule was much harder than Indiana's, for example. I mean, I don't know what Indiana would have done with Alabama's schedule. I don't know that it would have been 11-1. We just don't know. But the reality is the committee has always, for the most part, valued, winning, with the exception of last year in Florida State. And, that's kind of what they've always done. And SMU seems like a pretty good team to me. And I don't know. I think Alabama's kind of been overrated all year from my perspective. And that's just kind of the way, I suppose, it goes. That's the system that they've set up.
Let me ask you something. I want to stay on the SEC just for a second. Why do you think Tennessee was so safe all along?
Well, I think because, they beat Alabama. that probably helped them along quite a bit. I think they routed their one tough non-conference opponent in NC State. I mean, they left no doubt. And so that game probably helped them in terms of their analytics. I think, they rely to some degree on analytics within the committee. And I think there's a feeling that, Tennessee's done a lot of good things. If they had lost to Vanderbilt, I don't think they would have been in. But, Tennessee was able to beat a team that Alabama was not. And so, I think that was probably a deciding factor. But, yeah, I think their overall resume was strong enough. And, they had some what you would call margin wins, and they won some games by a lot of points, and I think that helped them out.
Okay, real quick, Sam. I know Ravi's chomping at the bit, so I apologize. Chattanooga, NC State, Kent State, Oklahoma, Florida, Bama, Kentucky, Mississippi State, UTEP, Vandy. Who was Tennessee's best? So relative to – because they were almost never out of the discussion. Like, they didn't have to do very much. They kind of just got to sit idle.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And they were, like, in. And I was like, well, why? So, of those.
That schedule is pretty comparable to Indiana.
I just want people to hear it out loud. Again, Chattanooga, NC State, Kent State, Oklahoma, Florida, Bama, Kentucky, Mississippi State, UTEP, Vandy. Who's their best win?
Alabama.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the one. I mean, that's the victory that they had, and
because everybody talks about bad losses. Like, I mean, they lost to Arkansas early.
They did. Yeah, they did. They're Indiana's best win is Michigan, and that's a real shrug. That's about as good as beating Florida. So, yeah, I think that's the one game. And in Indiana again, they're 11-1, and they had large margins of victory too. I'm sure beating Nebraska 56-7 helped Indiana immensely. I'm sure that helped them because that margin of victory was decisive and impressive.
And the one that was no others on Nebraska's schedule.
Correct. Yep. So Nebraska was, a pretty good analytical win. And, Indiana gets to play Notre Dame. I think that could be a good football game. I think Notre Dame does a lot of good things.
I like Notre Dame a lot.
What's that?
I like Notre Dame a lot. I think they're pretty good.
They've been good all year. They've been solid. Now, they went out and they played. I think the question about Notre Dame is whether they face very many good offenses. And when they go out to USC and they give up 35, but they got 2 pick sixes, right? So that helped them out. We'll see if Notre Dame is able to, deal with, say, a Georgia in the second round. We're just going to have to find out what they're able to do. But they have to beat Indiana too, and Indiana's not going to just roll over. And ironically, Indiana will have fans in Notre Dame Stadium.
Yeah.
They're
going to rally.
Yeah.
You listened to Cignetti yesterday? Wow.
Yeah. They're going to have a lot of fans there. I mean, Notre Dame fans, they're fine, but they'll give their money. I mean, they'll sell their tickets. It's not, their fan base is national. And so a lot of times people have to come in the middle of December to go to a football game. And that's not going to happen. Indiana's probably going to have 15,000 fans in the stadium. So it'll be a little bit different environment than if Notre Dame was playing, I don't know, SMU. SMU is not going to have any fans at Penn State. They'll have about 10, and they'll be tucked in a corner. And, I don't know what the playoff allots them, probably 5,000, but I'd be surprised if SMU sold it. But Indiana will bring a contingency. So that could end up being the most interesting of the 4 games. Mm. I know that the Ohio State-Tennessee game is being billed as the big one because it's Big Ten versus SEC. But I think the Notre Dame-Indiana game could end up being the most interesting of the 4.
2 things here, Sam. One, I think you're right about Indiana's fans because they have to try and distract themselves from the fact that Mike Woodson's still their basketball coach for as long as possible. Second, can I just say, and I know this is going to be a hot take, I think the SEC is a Ponzi scheme. I think the whole thing outside of Georgia and Texas, who I think are good at football, everything else is based on this idea of who was supposed to be good to start. And it's like, well, this team beat this team, and then this team lost to this team. And it's just this one giant circle of money in and money out with these other 14 teams in the league that are just playing ring around the rosy and pretending like they're all good at football. And I watch them, I go, there's 2 good football teams in that conference. It's Georgia and Texas. And everybody else is just being propped up by preseason rankings that aren't real. Like the rest of the conference is a Ponzi scheme. I'm convinced of it.
Yeah, there's certainly years where it feels like that. And this is probably one of those years. The SEC went through an entire decade called the 1980s, with the exception of the 1980 Georgia team, where it was pretty much like that. There were a lot of teams that would kind of rise and fall, but none of them really measured up to, being national title contenders. And it was a great decade for SEC football. You can go back and look at all the players that were in the SEC back then, but it never really rose to that level. And then when the SEC got that contract with CBS in the early 90s, it became sort of an exclusive brand, and it elevated itself. And it became something larger than what it had long been. And it really wasn't until sort of the slow collapse of the Big 12 that the SEC became what it is now. Mm. And I think it's eventually going to recede. To be very honest with you, I don't think Alabama can remain as good as it was for as long as it did, and just in perpetuity. And so, there's going to be changes in that league. There's going to be evolutions, alterations, and the SEC is probably its golden years are probably over. And that happens sometimes. And I don't know if it's going to be the Big Ten that takes its place, but I'm guessing the SEC's years of just being totally dominant are almost past.
Sam, I suppose at some point we got to get to Nebraska, but shoot, I want to stay topical here real quick. Of what you saw revealed yesterday, now full disclosure, you know this because I talk to you all the time. The number one reason I did not want expansion is I said you cannot do this without some sort of conference uniformity, right? And I'm like,
right.
just like I didn't think it was that hard to figure out, especially from a level of conference games. So the whole thing happens yesterday, and we get, the pushback and the debates. And were you surprised that it's centered around the age-old strength of schedule and being on the same page from a philosophical standpoint within the conferences? They had a chance to get this right, and they just didn't. So why do you think they can openly complain about it and be taken seriously?
Well, the SEC complains because that's just kind of how they've always been. I mean, that's not always, but that's how they are now. I think that's the identity that league has taken on, that like, well, we're the best. And if someone doesn't agree, then we're just going to have to come up with sort of reasons, whether they're mendacious or not, to reaffirm that we're the best. And so I think some of that has happened, and I'm not sure why the SEC hasn't gone to 9 conference games. I think their thought process is they would do it if ESPN and ABC was willing to pay for it. But I don't think ESPN and ABC are willing to do that right now. And so I think that, as a result, we're where we're at. And it's an ongoing issue. So
it's just weird how, like, Miami can hammer Florida in the opener, and Florida can later on be used as a benchmark for the second of 3 games in a row that are this grinding schedule. I'm like,
right.
You know what that's called? A Ponzi scheme.
I'm like, you can't. I'm like, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah. Again, it was an interesting couple of years for the league. I'm sure they're frustrated. They didn't win the national championship last year. The best team was left out, probably, of the 4-team playoff last year. And this year, I would say that their odds are not great of winning the national title. And that mostly is because Georgia's Georgia's okay. They're not.
We disagree on that.
They're just an okay team. Relative to some of the teams.
They're top 3 in the country.
Sure, but I mean that they're not head and shoulders above everyone else.
No.
And so,
well, I don't think anybody is, though, Sam. To be honest.
Right, but that when you even the playing field like that, like it doesn't. There's been many years where the best team in the SEC was much better than other teams, or the other team was Clemson, and Clemson is a glorified SEC team. Like the SEC sort of claims Clemson, even though Clemson's not in the SEC. It's like, well, Clemson would like to be in the SEC, but they're not. That kind of stupid thing. And so there's been years where it's felt like, well, this is the SEC and then SEC adjacent. And that's not the case. I think Oregon is probably about as good as Georgia. And remember, 3 years ago, when Georgia and Oregon played on a field, I think Georgia won 41-0 or something. It was a joke game. And so now I think a lot of these teams are pretty even, and I think it probably rankles the SEC that they don't have the team that's head and shoulders the best, and they don't. And Georgia may win the national championship, but it's not going to be easy. It's going to be a lot of close football games if they do, and their offense is just so. And so I think that's part of it. I think that's part of the conversation. And if I were a betting person right now, I'd probably pick Oregon to win the national title, but you just never know. Which Ohio State team's going to show up. We don't know. Can Notre Dame really sustain this level of play through 4 rounds? We don't know. What the hottest team in the country is Arizona State. Now I don't know if that means anything, but they have nothing to lose. And so, is a team that plays with house money gonna shock some people? I think that's possible. I think it's very possible. Arizona State's got a pretty good path to the quarterfinals. And but Arizona State beat Oregon. Oh yeah, Arizona State knows Oregon real well. And so, like, that's an example of, like, well, if Oregon's gonna lose to somebody, they'd lose to somebody that knows them. Well, Kenny Dillingham knows Oregon better than anybody, any coach in America. So when you think about how could a team like Arizona State make a move, that's how. Is they draw Notre Dame, they can beat Notre Dame, and then they draw a team that basically they know inside and out for a semifinal, and then you just never know what happens in the final. So there's a lot of different scenarios that could line up where an SEC team doesn't win it and somebody else does.
We're talking with Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald. Sam, let's move on to Nebraska here. Before we get to bowl game or anything like that, obviously, since the last time you talked to us on this show, quite a bit has happened, whether it's transfer portal, coaching changes. Over the last week, what has moved your needle the most?
I think, locking up Holgerson and then Emmett Johnson coming back, I think are two big developments. I think it's important. I thought Nebraska developed a really good 1-2 punch in the running back room over the last 3 or 4 games, and I think they can keep that rolling. I went into the season skeptical about that room, in part because I wasn't sure the right guys were going to play. And for a time there, the right guy didn't play. He just didn't play. And then at the end of the season, I thought Emmett Johnson got the opportunities that I felt like he probably deserved, and I liked how it looked, and I thought Dante Dell was running better too. I thought he was challenged and responded to that challenge pretty well. And so it was like, this is a pretty good 1-2 punch. This is a room that you want to keep intact. These are good kids, and they run hard and they play hard. And let's keep that together. And then you add the 2 young guys and eyes who might transfer, and Mekhi Nelson, and then you put Jamarian Parker in there, and that's a room that you can win football games with. I think you really can. And then Johnson left for a short time, and then he came back, and so I think that's going to remain intact, which is good. And then Holgerson coming back, I think, is good. I think he'll develop a skill set and a system that really benefits Dylan Raiola. I think Dylan Raiola is, can throw the ball all over the field, but he actually enjoys throwing these sort of quick passes. You can have a strong arm and still really enjoy that short passing game. I think of Warren Moon, probably the best short passer of all time. And, he could throw the ball 80 yards, but he also knew how to throw the little 4 or 5 yard in. And I feel like Dylan Raiola is in that class of player. He enjoys the short passing game, the controlled stuff. And people watched Mahomes last night do a little bit of that. And I think Raiola likes that. And I think Holgerson will give him that. And so I think going forward, the offense that they can run is going to be good. So I think those are the two most notable things. Losing Terrence Knighton, I think, is tough. I think it was time for Tony White, and I wrote about that. I think they would have liked to have a third year with Tony White, and I like that guy a lot. I think it's okay. Like I think year 3 for Tony White wasn't going to be as easy as year 1 and 2 here. So he's moving on to a new situation. Nebraska's going to have a new coordinator. I think it can be a win-win for everybody.
Sam, with the bowl game and kind of the opponent, how much of this do you think is a potential precursor for how Nebraska feels like we should view them in December, right? Because you heard Coach Rule say the other day, hey, listen, this is busy, it's active, the portal's active, coaching movement is active. What do you think he meant kind of when he said kind of get used to this as some sort of a precursor?
I think if a program is going to have the kind of success that Rule wants to have, they're going to have to get used to juggling 3 things at once: preparing for a big game, knowing some players are going to leave, having coaching churn, and Nebraska has built the kind of size of staff that should accommodate juggling all those things at once. And I think that's probably what he means. Certainly there's going to be some guys who choose not to leave the transfer portal at some of the playoff teams because they want to stay with their teams and through the process, and they don't want to leave right yet because it's fun and they want to be a part of it. But, obviously you're going to have to juggle a lot of things if you're successful going forward. And, that's what he means. December is a chaotic month now. It used to be a quiet month. full of bowl preparation and, recruiting visits, but and that wasn't quiet, but it was structured. Now it's just completely chaotic. And I don't think Rule knows exactly which players are going to transfer. Does he know exactly, whether the offers that the players cite back to him are true?
Yeah.
How would he know? It's a big negotiation now.
So I will tell you one thing. If he knows the people involved, he is not afraid to call. I can tell you that right now. Like this, you're like, hey man, I feel like I'm being leveraged. What's the story here?
For sure. Absolutely. Yeah. And sometimes that can happen. That can, those can be the case. And
I just wish
you're going to lose some players. You're going to lose some players to Group of 5. That's reality.
That's okay, right? Like, yeah. But these runners and there's people like that all over the place. It's just a shame how the predatory behavior has almost no consequences.
Yeah, well, I think there needs to be some structure around it. As I said this, I don't know, somewhere else. It's going to on a podcast, our Pick Six podcast. Eventually, we're just going to get a union, Damon. That's the only. We're going to have a union, and it's going to be collectively bargained, and the framework is going to be decided by,
You said that so serious too, and you called me by my first name. I had to listen.
Yeah. Well,
because he knows you're a big union guy.
He's like, hey, come on, Dave. And I was like, oh, shit.
We in the media won't accept anything else. And some of what is going on is, of course, it's complete chaos. And social media is so much in charge of all this stuff. And we just won't anything short of, a union structure. We're just not going to take, the NCAA's the bad people. They have no good answers. Nobody likes them. Whatever. And so it's going to have to be a union. And then when it's a union, then we'll say, well, there's a union and that'll fix everything. And it won't, but it'll at least give structure that needs to be there, because what we have right now is, not even what professional sports have. Patrick Mahomes can't go to the highest bidder every year. He can't go back and renegotiate his contract every season. I mean, I suppose he could, but the Chiefs don't have to let him go every single year and go somewhere else. The model that people are thinking or imagining in this moment is something closer to an EPL or European soccer model, and that's not at all what college athletics is. So we in the media won't have just basically settled on that the players are aggrieved and in that position of having justice perverted against them until we get a union. And then once that happens, then they'll say, well, now there's a structure. Short of that, I just don't imagine anything being satisfying to the people that cover the sport, even if a union doesn't necessarily advantage the players in ways that they might have been advantaged 3 years ago. Once you put in place a union, you're not going to have freedom of movement. Do people really think the college football teams are going to say, sure, you can go somewhere every year? I mean, come on, that's silly. So, players are going to lose their freedom of movement to some degree the more structure we get, and people might apparently are okay with that.
That's Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald. Sam, appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, take care.
More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Halfway through the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. I appreciate a man that can spin a narrative, but let's not pretend like their loss to BYU for SMU is a bad loss.
Yeah.
I get they were unranked at the time. It's because the preseason polls are stupid, as I was establishing with the SEC. The preseason polls are dumb. They don't mean anything. That's why you don't like schedule talk in the offseason, because we have no idea who's good. Do we know that BYU was going to start off 7-0? No.
Wait. Did you just use my sentiment to make your point?
I gave you credit. Look at you being right.
Okay, Yoda. You're not Jedi mind tricking me. The reason I don't like schedules is not because of that. Wow, that's kind of a reach. It's not super far. You didn't stretch the rubber band a ton.
I think it's a general idea what you mean.
Man, you think you are so slick.
I thought I got away with it.
The transitive property drives me crazy.
Yep.
Stop doing that, Kurt. But I'm still heated with Josh, even though Josh is my guy.
You heard it here first, DB. Big union guy, big transitive property
How
guy.
about how serious Sam was? He's
Hey.
like, oh, we're going to go to a union.
Damon. Damon, got to go to a union.
Like, damn, who's Damon?
Although I do think there's two things here that I really want to talk about, and we probably aren't going to have time for both. But I do think the English Premier League model is the most likely model that we're going to. And if you don't know what I mean, it's that contracts are very fluid. And here's the thing that I think is most important. There's transfer fees. I think we might be headed for a place where it's like, yeah, you could transfer as much as you want, but if you're under contract somewhere else, you're going to have to pay a fee. Whether it's the player themselves, whether it's the school that's trying to get them, I think transfer fees are going to become a thing much quicker than a union's going to become a thing because you're going to get a ton of pushback on that from the universities.
And logistically, I'm just not
It's hard to pull off.
Those two worlds can collide.
Yeah, because then you've got there is no other definition of people in a union other than employees, right? And we're trying our damnedest, even as they're going to be paid from the university next year, to not consider them employees.
Very, very careful with the verbiage.
Yeah, and so I think this is a situation where transfer fees and a very fluid player model like English Premier League is actually more likely. You know, the other thing about the English Premier League that I think is going to happen with college football, there's a lot of people that own EPL teams that actually don't care if they make any money.
Yeah.
They're filthy rich oil guys. It's their vanity project. What does that sound like? That sounds a lot like a booster, doesn't it?
Wow.
Most of those boosters aren't getting like return on investment on NIL dollars.
That's probably true.
Not fiscal
That's
return.
probably true. Yeah.
Not fiscal return on investment, right? You're seeing a handful of these guys, but most of these guys, they're getting paychecks. You're not seeing in like a car commercial or a credit union commercial.
Nobody's doing like
you have a few
real estate brokerage commercials for Noddle.
That's what I mean, right? Like, so you're not getting a fiscal return on the investment. It's a vanity project.
Which by the way, I have to take a second.
Yeah.
Condolences to the family, the Hawks family.
Yes, 100%.
Howard Hawks.
100%. But that's a model.
Seems very good to me.
That's a model in the English Premier League where you've got all this oil money and these oligarchs and whoever. Although I think they make it all the oligarchs sell the teams, but you've just got these guys with bleep you money that it's a vanity project. It's their shiny toy to play with.
Yeah. I don't know. So okay, I'll entertain that.
I think that's what college football is going to be. I think it's going to look way more like that than an NFL model. I don't think you're going to get a union anytime soon. I don't think you're going to get collective bargaining anytime soon.
And if that's the case, I mean, you're going to be firing people?
They're not going to call it that, but yeah.
Okay, so you better get the semantics right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to have a hard time.
Are we getting into right to hire, right to fire states? Are we doing all of that?
Not if you don't consider them employees. That's why the verbiage is going to be so key for these people. And that's why I think they're going to fight with everything in them not to call them employees so that they can't form a union. That's, to me, going to be the big thing.
I just couldn't believe, like, when adults – the transitive property doesn't really work in competitive issues. So you need something.
It doesn't work in almost anything, to be fair, except for just regular mathematics.
That's why I was surprised when Josh was like, oh, I can't take a team that went 8 overtimes with Georgia Tech seriously. I'm like, any more serious than Oregon playing Wisconsin 16-13?
Or what was the score at the beginning of that series? Idaho? 27-14 against Idaho? Is Georgia Tech going 8 overtimes with Georgia worse for Georgia than Oregon playing I mean, they were in a dogfight in the fourth quarter with Idaho.
Yeah.
That's a real thing that happened this year. I know it was a long time ago, but that's on their schedule.
I mean, Nebraska's 6-6, and they were within one possession of beating Ohio State just like Oregon did.
Yeah.
So I don't – and we're talking about, like, this is Georgia. They beat Texas twice.
2 times.
Not once, but twice. I don't care if they laid down against every other team in the country and had 1-point wins. They beat the perceived top 2 or 3 team in the country twice, and the second time with a second-half backup quarterback.
Yeah.
So they're clearly pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, who cares about Georgia Tech? They beat Texas twice.
Yeah. The wins matter. And if you don't have the wins, that's when I start looking at margins. Like, if you don't have
all things being equal.
Yeah. If all things being equal, if you don't have good wins, that's why
that was weird for Cignetti.
No, but I will say, because they don't have the wins, that's why their margin matters.
I know. So, but he's smart enough to use it.
Yeah.
He's like, listen, even
Now he made some other.
Who was it yesterday on the panel that said, was it Booger? It was somebody. I stopped listening to Galloway, but
Yeah.
excuse me.
Booger's suit game was strong. I appreciated that.
Somebody said, "Hey, listen, okay, since we don't have a lot of uniformity with strength of schedule because of there's the conference schedule is weird. Do you schedule tough? Do you not schedule tough?" He's like, just take a look and see if they're getting their heads beat in. And I think he said he used the term "beat the brakes off," of, which is cool. I like a little, whatever. Yeah. That's the bullet.
Like a little what, DB?
Using your own jargon.
Vernacular.
I like the fact that he said, listen, Indiana, they pounded teams.
Yeah.
They did what they were supposed to do.
So it's kind of funny to me because we always make this point in college football. Let's not pretend like NFL schedules are the same either.
Oh, I know. So I was getting that a lot on my timeline yesterday.
We just ignore the fact that some of these teams, like a first-place schedule and a last-place schedule, are not the same. The team that the division crossover that you have is not the same. It's the same thing we're dealing with in these conferences now because everybody's losing their minds. I saw a bunch of stuff on Twitter about, like 10 out of the 12 teams had a below the halfway point of strength of schedule within their conference. It's like, yeah, that's what happens when you have that many teams. The teams that have the easier, and let's not pretend like some of the teams that they played weren't supposed to be better than they are. Like Michigan hurts your strength of schedule in that situation, right? A Florida hurts your strength of schedule. An Oklahoma hurts your strength of schedule in that situation. Let's not pretend like we have any idea what a schedule actually means when they're making it until the end of the season. We're like, which is what I want to do. Real quick, Mike and Grant, hold on here. I wanted to go through this.
We might have to get them on the.
Yeah,
we'll let those guys start at the top of, or not the top, but at 8:43.
Yeah, I don't want to cut them off here, but I want to go through this because I think this kind of proves my point I was making with Sam here. You go through the SEC. How many of those teams do you actually think are good? I'm assuming Mississippi State. No.
Yeah.
Kentucky.
No.
Auburn.
No.
Oklahoma.
No.
Vanderbilt.
No.
Better than we thought, but not good.
Yeah.
Right? Arkansas.
No.
Florida.
No.
Missouri. You've been off them all year.
I know. Yeah.
Ole Miss.
They're okay. I like Ole Miss.
That's one. LSU.
Yeah.
That week we got one so far. Texas A&M.
Better than I thought.
But not actually good.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're still at one. South Carolina.
Better than I thought.
Are they actually good?
They're not bad.
I'm going to count South Carolina.
Okay.
Is Bama good?
Yes.
Tennessee?
I don't think so. But
Georgia and Texas are yeses. So
Yeah.
we're talking about 5 teams we know are good,
Yeah.
and South Carolina was iffy.
Yeah.
So 4 teams we know are good, maybe 2 teams
I could make the same case in the Big Ten.
100%. But the Big Ten doesn't get the credit or doesn't get the narrative.
I
that the
almost
SEC
would make
does.
the same case in the Big 12 for 4. Maybe. I get to 3. Pretty safe.
But you know how we don't talk about every other conference? Like we talk about the SEC.
God, Miami's got to be shaking their head.
It's possible the ACC might be better than
We think.
most of the other conferences this year.
That's funny.
We'll get to the callers coming up next on Hurrdat Sports Radio. We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla, reminding you to go see our friends at Lauritsen Gardens and their bright nights. Make sure you get to lauritsenGardens.org to get your tickets and to check out their hours. They've got a bunch of days that Santa's going to be out there. You can take the kiddos out to see him, or you can make a nice little romantic date with your significant other. Go out there, check out the 20-foot poinsettia tree, check out all the features that they got. You can even make little s'mores out there as well. Go to lauritsenGardens.org and get your tickets today. All right, DB, let's get to some calls. Our friends on the Hurrdat hotline. We still have Mike. Mike, you there, bud?
Yeah, I'm here.
How are you?
Mike, good morning. What's up, buddy?
Good morning. How are you guys?
Good. I've got this nice bracelet that I'm wearing this morning currently that I put on right away.
Oh, well, there's the story behind that. Over a course of probably 6 months to a year, I get in these deep conversations with my personal trainer, and she had such a tough background, and we kind of put it together. And I thought, well, I'm going to get some bracelets made because last December 29th at 74 years old, I got my first tattoo, and it was grace, wisdom, courage, it's on my upper arm. My wife and my daughters all thought I was crazy, that I was going through midlife crisis, but it was so much fun. So doing that.
I don't know if I have the patience to sit through. I'm 50 with zero ink. I just don't know if I could sit there long enough.
It took them longer to set it up than they did to do it. It was like 15 minutes.
Oh, is that it?
So, yeah, but those people that get those elaborate ones, those are crazy. But,
yeah, it depends on what you're getting.
The other thing's funny. My grandson, who's texted me the other day, he goes, he's a sophomore at Boston College. So he goes, well, we're going to be playing Nebraska in the bowl game, so we're going to have a little inter-family rivalry with my grandson.
Oh.
So, you know.
So those Nebraska ties should run deep, though, Mike.
Yes, they do. My wife has much conflicts, and my son-in-law's a Marquette, and we all just like Notre Dame, so we're okay with that. So,
all right,
Mike.
Hey, you guys, I appreciate you guys very much, and you have a great day.
Hey, thank you again for the gift. I shared one with Ravi, and I told him he needs to wear it more, considering he got off to a little squirrely start this morning. I told him he hasn't been following.
I've got it memorized, Mike. Grace, wisdom, compassion, courage, self-awareness. I got you.
But you know, Damon, what you'll appreciate, because we're similar in a lot of ways, is when I meet somebody heart to heart in situations, especially when I was going through chemo, I would hand some of those out to different people in my interactions because I knew I was plugging into them.
Mm.
And I got some of the responses were so deep and powerful, and so it was a great connecting thing for me during that journey. So,
Mike, you're a good man. Wishing you the best as always.
It's all good.
Thanks, buddy.
Appreciate you, Mike.
Let's go to Grant.
Yeah, let's get our guy Grant here. Wants to talk a little NIL. Grant, what's going on, buddy?
Hey guys.
Grant, what's up?
Good shout out to both of you. Love you. DB, thank you for stepping up at that state championship game. You know, I got a little 13-year-old in the Junior Warriors program, and so we got to drive down and just talk about next man up and culture and some of the things that you were repeating that day. So just that was a random aside, but wanted to give a shout out to both of you quick.
Appreciate that.
All right. So NIL.
Hey, Grant, turn your radio down for me real quick, champ.
All right, hold on. Gotcha.
Yep, there we go. Crystal clear.
All right, we're better now.
Yeah.
Radio's down. Okay. So let's talk Emmett Johnson, but let's dig into it a little bit bigger.
Okay.
Did he come back because he got a bigger bag of money? Did he come back because he tested the waters and it wasn't as it was a little more tepid water than what he thought? What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are, I think he got bad advice. I don't think he pit one. I think he thought something was out there, and there was a little bit of a disagreement, right? I think Emmett was a guy that just wanted to be appreciated, not necessarily with money, but just value me as a person. Like, I've given you everything, and I don't think he thought that was kind of the case with a couple of things in-house, and so the option was there, put out there by a third party, and then I think cooler heads prevailed, and they actually had a sit down. I don't think it's a mercenary deal at all.
Okay, that's good. I mean, even Eric Crouch left for a day, didn't he?
Yeah, and I think it's so it's just volatile. Like, I just think it's a stressful. College is very, very difficult.
What's the thing that you've told me, DB, right? Is if you're a guy that does your work and you're a guy that can be low maintenance, sometimes you can feel neglected.
Yep.
Because
that's a good point.
What's the phrase? Squeaky wheel gets the grease, right?
Yeah, and you always neglect the constant. And
the guy that you don't have to worry about.
Variable.
Right?
And Emmett's a constant, so sometimes you just have to make sure he's being watered too.
Yeah, he gets a little love too.
That's all.
I think that's all it was about, Grant.
Okay. I want to dig a little deeper. Do we get sunlight on this whole NIL thing at some point in the next 5 years? Like, I mean, I get a kick out of somebody said, hey, there's, the Ohio State team's a $20 million team. I have no idea if they made that number up or where they came up with that. I would get a kick out of the whole. I'm somebody that in the NFL gets a kick out of the salary cap stuff and all that.
Yeah.
So I'll hang up and listen, but I'm just curious to hear what you already know that's coming and what you think is coming with regards to NIL, transfer portal. Obviously, we've got this 105-man limit that is messing with a lot of things in the next couple of years. So I'll hang up and listen.
Appreciate it, Grant. Oh, go ahead.
Well, so I think a couple things. Number one, the actual funds from the school are going to make a big difference here.
And I do think they have to have transparency with that.
Yes, I think they have to have transparency with the stuff coming directly from the school. And I think that's going to eliminate some of these fringe NIL conversations because it's going to replace what some of these guys are getting now that's coming from NIL that don't really have a market value.
Yeah, and you know what else I think is so just historically with like economics, not to get all off this deal, the market typically resets.
Yeah.
It may take X amount of time, but the market typically resets.
Regresses to the mean.
That's what I think happens with these coaches in terms of NIL as well. Because at some point, you're going to want to regain control. And so if there's some uniformity across the board, let's just say you have a meeting of the minds. Because what if I were these coaches, some will have no vested interest in working with anybody.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna do what they do. They're going to be at the top. There's probably only about 2 or 3 of those.
Okay.
Then there's that next group where it's like, hey, because it's what always happens with employers and employees. Eventually, the guys and gals that are in control will meet.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll say, okay, hey, listen, you know what? Workforce, it's kind of getting out of hand.
Yeah.
Let's work collectively to reestablish control so we all can win. And then amongst the top, upper echelon, they'll do what they always do. The next tier will kind of do what they do. And everybody will try to slide up. Because what's happening right now is decision makers are losing control. They will recalibrate the market in terms of what they're willing to bear. And it's going to happen.
And you know what that's called?
Coaches will either leave or they're going to say, you know what? I need more control again. Like, this is getting out of hand. I'm willing to not win 11 games, and then people will laugh.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to like, oh, man, you're always going to win. Nah. At some point, it becomes too much to bear. It's too stressful. You won't have anybody doing it.
Look at Dabo. I mean, look at that. That's what Dabo's doing.
You won't have anybody doing it.
For whatever his...
And I know it's next. Oh, there'll always be somebody.
I think
it's hard to fill jobs.
I think you're always going to have some guys that are a little bit rogue and are kind of do whatever they want.
What they want to do. Yeah.
But there's only so like the Bryce Underwood thing with Michigan's a really good example of this. You're always going to have some rich booster at some school that's like, yeah, I'll pay whatever it takes to get the 5-star quarterback. But here's the problem. You know what rich people don't like doing over and over again, especially if they don't get even, I know sometimes we can say they won't get a fiscal return on their investment, but if they don't get any enjoyment out of their investment, at some point they'll stop. Like if you keep paying
it's just not worth it internally.
Emotionally, right? Because if you keep paying for a Bryce Underwood and you hit like what's Clemson had with 5-star quarterbacks recently, right?
I know.
Like if you're paying for those guys, at some point you're going to be like, okay, I'm not getting a fiscal return on my investment, but I'm not even enjoying this anymore. At some point you stop writing those checks. And so that's one thing that's going to happen. The other thing I think it's going to happen is we've talked about this.
Those in charge will always at some point reestablish that they're in charge.
And so you know what that's
it's just how it goes.
You know what that's called, and it brings up another important thing that I think is going to happen. That's called collusion, by the way.
Oh, we see it in the NFL.
Yes, and I'm glad you brought the NFL up. The NFL has an antitrust exemption, so they're allowed to collude. You know what the NCAA is applying for as soon as the House settlement comes through? An antitrust exemption.
As long as they can,
so that they'll
reestablish it.
So that they can collude with each other.
Yeah.
That's the point. Because the SEC and Big Ten almost got in trouble for it when they met this summer. Yeah. So the minute that settlement gets signed and put into law, there will be an antitrust exemption.
We just have to weather the storm as
I think we're
fans.
What day is it? It's December 9th right now.
And I still need a second job.
We are 7.5 months away from this going away, mostly.
Yeah. I'm kind of in agreement.
Because
I do think it's funny how we argued about 4 and we are going to argue about 12.
And we're going to argue about 16. And we're going to argue about whatever number it is because that's what we do. I love it. I'll be honest. That's part of the fun for me. Speaking of the NFL, though, we're going to talk to Russell Baxter next. He is with Fansided, and he's an author and historian. We'll talk to Russell Baxter about what's going on in the NFL next on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, and now KFOR in Lincoln. That's DBM Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. We are efforting our friend Russell Baxter, NFL historian and writer for Fansided NFL. A lot going on in the NFL this week, DB.
Just the way you drew it up, that Chiefs would be 12-1.
No, not at all.
Yeah, I know.
They've looked how I thought they would look. Their record is not what I thought their record would be.
Yeah. You know what's funny?
What?
Is, I was reminding you that, and our listeners, because in case you hadn't realized that they're third in their league in point differential, but there wasn't a team within 3 games.
Yep.
Now there's not a team within 4. Just if you wanted to go through that,
and I believe still third in point differential.
Yeah, if you want to go through that mental exercise again, they are third in their division in point differential,
and they're clear by 4 games.
Yeah,
that's dumb. It's really dumb.
It's incredible.
That is, again, that's why I say they've played exactly how I thought they would play, but their record is not what I thought their record would be.
And how Chargers-ish was that last night?
Yeah,
right. Always going to be right there.
That's exactly how they want to play that game.
Yeah.
That's exactly how Jim Harbaugh.
And it wasn't good enough.
Well, it would really help if any of their running backs could do anything at all.
It's a struggle.
That would be super cool. I do also, I know, I'm not in love with Justin Herbert. I'm just not.
I like him.
I think he's really talented. I just don't know if he's. I don't know.
I get it. You want more big game, Justin.
I would like. I mean,
he was good last night.
He was all right, but like he missed the one throw that changes the entire game. The throw to Palmer.
Yeah,
that's a game changer, and he's wide open. Like you cannot miss that throw.
There were a couple of the drops too, but
I get that.
Okay.
That's why I gave a little hate on the running backs.
Yeah,
the running backs were really hurting him. I get that, but how
many incompletions do you think he had?
Off the top of my head,
double or single digits?
I think it's right on that line. I would say somewhere between 9 and 11.
It's 9.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
So, I mean, listen. He's really good. You've got to be able to make that throw. If you're going to play games like that, if you're going to play games the way Jim Harbaugh wants to play games, you have to execute those throws.
I'm going to ask that question.
Let's get to our guy Russell Baxter. He's an NFL writer and NFL historian. You can find his work currently on Fansided NFL. What's going on, Russell?
Oh, I don't know what's going on. Anything?
Not much.
So we're having
what a loaded question that was.
Right? We've kind of been having this intense discussion, and it's not unfamiliar to you because it's kind of followed him since he's come into the league when you compare it to his talent. I think Justin Herbert is a really good quarterback. I'm trying to convince my partner of that. And he does make a good point, though, that last night is kind of a microcosm of Herbert, right? At some point, he has to be able to win a game like that when you're 21-30 with just the one touchdown. He goes back to the open receiver that he missed. For you, who is Justin Herbert?
I think Justin Herbert is still more of a passer than a quarterback. And I differentiate that because there are great quarterbacks who are not necessarily gifted passers. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
There are some very gifted passers who are not necessarily overall quarterbacks. And, it's funny. I don't know if you want to credit Justin Herbert per se, but a week earlier they did win a 17-13 game at Atlanta. Now, of course, they picked off Kirk Cousins 4 times, which has now become.
Boy, he was bad again yesterday. Whew.
Well, it's now become vogue to pick off Kirk Cousins, unfortunately. And I'm not sure what's going on there, but I heard 3 weeks ago that Atlanta was on its way to a division title, and I don't know about you. I checked the NFL rule books. It's hard to win that when you're in second place.
Yeah.
So, and listen, Kansas City has done this to a lot of different people. It's funny, the Chargers defensively this year, that's really the story with them. I went back, if you go back to the merger, the Chargers, I don't think have ever led the league in fewest points allowed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'd have to go back and check the AFL. Of course, there was only like 18 to 9, fewer teams back then and so on. But they've always been known more for offense than defense. And this year, think about this. They held the Chiefs under 20 points both times this year and lost both games.
Yep.
So, but I will also say this. Justin Herbert, along with his defense, helped put 27 points on the board early in the second quarter of a playoff game, and they couldn't win that one either. So I don't know if it's necessarily about Justin Herbert. And I think it's the fact that if the Chargers are still kind of trying to find themselves in a division which has been unexpectedly top-heavy.
Yeah.
Okay? I mean, think about a year ago. The Chiefs won the Super Bowl with 11 wins, and no one else in the division had a winning record. Now the Raiders can't win to save their lives, and everyone else does have a winning record. So this is kind of like the jump that was kind of made from the AFC South from 2022 to 2023. So again, I don't know if it's necessary. Herbert, listen, the J.K. Dobbins play has been a big part of what they've done this year. Kansas City it's been a remarkable year for them being able to win these close games. And I think people forget you remember last year at one time during the regular season, guys, I want to say the Chiefs were split their last 10 games. They were 5-5 in the last 10 regular season games. And then they got hot for the playoffs. Okay? Mm-hmm. It's kind of like getting Duke in the NCAA tournament. You really don't care what the hell they do during the regular season. Then Mike Krzyzewski shows up and they win the title. So I'm not saying the Chiefs are going to do that this year, although they got a big boost with the Bills losing yesterday as far as home field and so on. So I don't know what to make of the Chargers. And I will say this, they've got quite the test coming up this week because Tampa Bay's got its deficiencies on defense, but they score points on just about everybody.
Yeah, they can't stop a soul.
Russell, let me stay in the NFC West real quick here because I find we try and have an NFL guy on every week. I find myself asking this question every week, and I still don't know the answer. And is it Kansas City's doing this because they just have so much winning DNA, they just find ways to win games? Or are we just looking at a bunch of smoke and mirrors? I still don't know. Do you have an idea?
Well, they've been smoking these mirrors for about a year and a half now. All right. Now, I don't know about you. I prefer my brisket being smoked. Okay. Not my mirrors.
Oh,
all right.
Yeah.
But listen, there are eerily similarities to the early days of the Patriots dynasty with some of this stuff, where they just found ways to scratch out wins. This remains one of my favorite statistical oddities ever. The year the Patriots won their first Super Bowl, guys, 2001, they played 3 playoff games against the Raiders, the Steelers, and the Rams. Do you know how many, in their 3 games total, do you know how many offensive TDs they had in those 3 games?
And I will say 5.
I will say 3.
Jeez.
1 each. A Tom Brady run in the snow. A Drew Bledsoe touchdown pass because Brady got hurt in the AFC title game.
Yep.
And then a Brady touchdown pass in the Super Bowl. Do you know how many their defense and special teams scored? 3.
Wow.
A punt return, a blocked field goal return, and a Ty Law pick six. And they walked away with a Super Bowl title. Now, last year, Kansas City wasn't exactly an offensive juggernaut. They gave the Dolphins, the Arnold Schwarzenegger version of Mr. Freeze in the playoffs. But, they went back and forth with the Bills. They only scored 17 in the AFC title game against a team, and Baltimore has a good defense. And they struggled to score points in the Super Bowl. And it's been kind of this way. They're just scratching and clawing and winning the battles of attrition, which should say something because every time they tried to do it the other way, remember 2018, they had one of the highest scoring teams in the league. And they couldn't beat New England to save their lives. And in one game, they score 40 and lost 43-40 in the regular season. And then in overtime, they scored 31 and still couldn't beat them. So there's a lot to be said for defense. So I don't know if it's necessarily smoke and mirrors. Maybe the other 31 teams in the league might want to look into, maybe Bath and Body Works. They have the same mirror.
Russell, no, I asked this question in the offseason, and it was a total fluke just because I like McDonald a lot. And I was just looking at some teams in this division with my partner being such a San Francisco fan. But the question I would ask our national guys at the time, because there were some similarities, especially defensively in their roster makeup, I said, would you rather be the Rams or the Chargers? That was 3 months ago. And now I'm watching this division unfold. And it's probably a smarter question. I just lucked into it. Going forward, would you rather be not the Chargers, the Rams or the Seahawks?
Well, that's an excellent question because you've got two men who are head coaches with different specialties who are, Sean McVay got his job in 2017 with the Rams because he was quote unquote kind of the golden boy of offense. And I'm not being snarky or anything. He was a hot commodity. And after what Mike McDonald did in 2 years with Baltimore, he became the defensive hot commodity.
Yeah.
And, but what I think has been remarkable of what McDonald does is their defense at times has looked horrible. Their special teams have looked at sometimes even worse. And yet Geno Smith, who continues to have this amazing comeback story, and listen, they got off to a good start last year. They wound up finishing 9-8 and missed the playoffs. There's a difference. Listen, they won their first 3 games this year, muddled in the middle, and now they're on a 4-game winning streak. Mm-hmm. So they're a little streaky, which kind of shows their youth in certain areas and so on. But I'll tell you, they bring the wood. I mean, they are
they thump.
Very, very physical, and that epitomizes what he was in Baltimore. And it's funny. It's not like they've been, they lost to the Rams at home. They gave up a 103-yard pick six.
Yep.
They lost. The Giants have won only 2 games, and Seattle lost them at home. Okay? Yeah. So, I mean, I know Coney Island's famous for roller coasters, but this has been a hell of a ride. Okay? But listen, they are. Think about this. They have the Rams on their heels, and I think in some ways that's a good thing because they know that if the Rams beat them for the second time, they would have swept them. And Seattle could very, very quickly go from being a division leader to being out of the playoffs altogether. And that's because the NFC North is, incredible. Mm. Okay? I mean, I've seen other divisions. Can you imagine winning 11 games and you're still not in first place?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like the Vikings?
And there are times they look spectacular.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. They're taking away the ball, okay? Sam Darnold, even with his flaws at times, has really been embraced by that team.
You talk about streaky. When he's going,
mm-hmm.
he looks. There's that arm. There's that quarterback versus a thrower that you were talking about. There are times he looks sensational.
Yes, he looks like the 3rd overall pick in the draft in 2018. And then there are times he looks like the 255th pick in the draft because of the turnovers. And I don't know if that's does he play too fast at times? Does he? Yeah, I'm having a Tommy Boy moment here. JoJo the Engine Boy. Remember when he in the movie? Is he sometimes going too fast and loses himself? Okay, and it's not all about him. I mean, Kevin O'Connell last year, he lost Kirk Cousins in the middle of the year. They scratched and clawed. They finished 7-10. And when he took over the team, I mean, they were a playoff team a couple of years ago, but they faded at the end of the year. This Vikings team's just the opposite. They started strong. Okay, they had the 2-game blip in 5 days. Remember, they lost the Lions, and 4 days later they lost to the Rams on the Thursday night. They haven't lost since. So they take away the football. They do a lot of good things. They run. They're very balanced. Very dangerous, and I don't know if they're going to catch the Lions. They already lost to them once, and they lost at home to them, by the way, which is the thing about Detroit. Detroit won at Green Bay and at Minnesota, which should tell you something about them. So, Darnold is a really fascinating. Here's what general managers around the league need to do. They need to find out who the Jets are drafting in the first couple of rounds. Sit on it for 5 years and then sign them.
Wow.
So it's about to be Zach Wilson's anytime now.
Think about this. And it was 4 weeks ago. And what would the press and the lead-up story in New York be? A playoff game between Geno Smith and Sam Darnold.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. So kind of along the lines of poor franchises, how did the Giants tail spin? So 5 weeks ago, Ravi asked me, would I rather be the Panthers or the Giants? And I was like, this was pre-Daniel Jones. And I was like, well, the Giants have a nice infrastructure. They seem to be well ran. They're going to need probably another coach, but I probably would take the Giants. 5 weeks later, I hate to even say this, but Carolina actually looks functional. And the Giants do not. Like, what happened so fast, Russell?
I think I got to give Dave Canales some credit here. And I don't know if it was all him, and it was the upstairs as well. But when you see something 2 years in a row on two different teams, it should open your eyes a little. What was Baker Mayfield like last year with the Bucs? And who was his offensive coordinator?
Yeah.
Okay, now, Dave Canales is in Carolina for 2 games, and he sits Bryce Young down. And it's the best thing, as of right now, it's the best thing to happen to Bryce Young.
Yeah.
Who now looks like,
No.
I mean, he doesn't look like a Pro Bowl quarterback, but the thing you have to like about him on third down, for the most part, I mean, he did throw one ugly pick yesterday, okay? But that's one of the hottest teams in the league in Philadelphia, and they went toe-to-toe with them. They went toe-to-toe with the Chiefs a couple of weeks ago. Mm-hmm. They do look very highly functional. Adam Thielen is looking like the Adam Thielen from the Vikings a couple of years ago. I mean, they definitely have some pieces there, and this was a 2-win team last season. This is a team that hasn't been in the playoffs since 2017. So, listen, Saquon Barkley, and the Giants made the decision on a guy who might break the NFL rushing record this season. Okay?
Yeah.
And listen, by the way, and I've pointed this out in a couple of columns I've written. It's probably a little off the point. Do you remember last year three running backs that played for a 1 year deal because they were franchised? That was Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, and Tony Pollard. How are they all doing this year?
No. Wow. Well, I forget about Pollard.
Yeah, I did too.
That's a good pull. That's a good pull, and it's post injury.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And by the way, the the Titans didn't want to re-sign Derrick Henry.
Yep.
And the Bengals cut and then traded Joe Mixon. How are they doing?
Oh, wow.
Mm.
That's funny, too, because Ravi's tried to make the case, especially with the backs that are coming out this year in college. Could we see a little bit more of a return to running the – especially, I look at the Bills, and they still need to give
James Cook's a little bit more.
The ball more. But I look at some of these teams, the Chiefs, that can run the ball when they want to or need to.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Look at the line. Like, they're for as high flying and whatever as the Lions are,
Montgomery
and Gibbs are silly when it comes to controlling. You just can't get the ball back.
Well, and the thing about Gibbs is in a blink of an eye, he's 40 yards downfield.
Yeah.
Okay. Montgomery does kind of the dirty work. We've seen running back combinations where one guy was more the runner and the other guy was more the versatile guy. These are both versatile guys.
Mm-hmm.
And they came into the week fourth in the league in rushing. Okay. So, and fifth in the league in run defense. So you wonder why the Lions are doing what they're doing. They run and they stop the run. And as my friend, as I can safely say, Sterling Sharp used to tell me when I worked with him at ESPN, he would always point out teams that were bad running teams, and they also had bad run defenses. And I asked him, why is that? He goes, Russ, it's because they don't practice against the run.
Well, let me get you out of here.
Perfect home. If your team is always not running the ball in practice, how the hell are you going to stop it during the game?
No. Let me get you out on this, Russell, and I get it. You're too, this franchise with how it's run, but what they have in place is or is not the Chicago Bears the best job available next year?
I think so, because one thing Ryan Poles did do was surround him with veteran weapons and a wide receiver in the draft. Okay, their offensive line is spotty. It could be better, but it just needs some it needs some continuity. Defensively, they were a no-show yesterday. Okay, at San Francisco against a beat-up San Francisco team. But I would agree with that. And now, if you could get Chicago to move out of the NFC North, so they don't have to play the Packers, Lions, and Vikings all the time, especially this year. Okay, which has been very, very rough on them. But you're also having like almost historical season from the NFC North. So, no, I agree with you. I think Chicago is a great landing place for someone. And hopefully they get along with the general manager.
Mm-hmm. That's Russell Baxter. He covers the NFL for a variety of places, including fan-sided NFL. Russell,
fantastic stuff,
we appreciate your time, as always. Great stuff.
Hope to talk to you soon.
Thanks, Russell.
That's Russell Baxter, an NFL writer and historian. We appreciate his time.
Is it the best job still?
I still have a really hard time just looking at him and be like, loser franchise. It's a loser franchise.
It's your boy. It's Kevin Warren, too.
They make bad decisions for the last 40 years. They've made bad choices.
Yeah.
At some point, that matters. That's the reason
I can't believe how the wheels have just come off the Giants.
It's the reason I can sit here and be like, yeah, I didn't think the Jets was going to work out with Aaron Rodgers. You know why? Because it's the freaking Jets. That's one of the better rosters in football. They can't win a game. That's CBM. Ravi, a little more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR, and Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. It's time for Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook, the best place in Nebraska to place your sports bets. Go to the casinos in Lincoln or in Omaha to place your bets in person. And you can go to warhorsecasino.com or download the Warhorse Casino app to get all the promotions they've got going on. They've always got cool stuff going on, not just at the sportsbook, but at the casino in general. And you can get a full list of details and house rules. DB, you know who I've been making some money on recently besides your picks?
And you know what? I'm not going to be perfect, but 2 out of 3 on Friday wasn't bad.
Not bad.
Jacksonville State was early.
That's right.
I was on the show.
You were on that one.
West Virginia.
Got West Virginia.
Did not get UNLV. I knew UNLV was getting a little greedy.
You got a little greedy on UNLV.
But Ain't bad.
2 out of 3 ain't bad. 2 out of 3 will make you money.
2 out of 3. And Jacksonville State was easy,
Oh.
fast. And, like I said that right away. That was the one in the morning.
Yeah.
You're like, who? And I'm like, Jacksonville State.
Yeah, cash money. That one was a
Jacksonville State.
no sweat for sure. You know
What
what?
was that final?
Like 41 something, 40 something. They got after him.
Yeah.
I don't remember the number, but it wasn't close. You know, I've been making up money on though. We talked about him with Russell.
The Panthers.
The Panthers.
Yeah. They actually look pretty functional.
They look.
So yesterday it seemed like the lines were inflated.
Yeah.
Like I just didn't have a good feel on anything. Like Verzal asked me yesterday, and I just was like, the only thing I feel good about is blank, and I went and looked, and I'm like, why is there so much movement?
I got a couple yesterday.
Was it injuries?
I don't know. There were a lot of injuries.
Yeah.
And I think the lines were weird because you had a couple good teams on their buys last week as well, or this week as well. But there's besides the Panthers, that one was minus 13.5, which pretty much any time they're a double-digit dog the last month or so, I just take them. I made money off them against Kansas City. I made money off them against the Philly as well. The other one that I made, I've also been fading Kansas City a little bit because
have they been getting big numbers?
They were 4 against the Chargers, but I was like, I think the Chargers either might win outright or it's probably going to be another one of those weird Kansas City games. Was able to cash that one as well. Like there's a couple teams I feel okay about betting on right now in the NFL, which, you know, I'll take at this point in the season. There's a lot of teams I don't feel like I know anything about at all. And my 49ers are one of them. but because the 49ers, I think, were 4.5, 5 against the Bears this weekend.
So
maybe got up to 5.5.
That's where I was with Brett. So I didn't see a lot of that.
I mean, it was a beating. It looked as bad as the numbers were, as bad as the score was.
And we still think that Chicago job's a good job.
I don't know. I think
it's gotta be.
Does it?
Yeah, you're talking about front office. Right?
I'm talking about franchise. Yeah. Same reason. Like the Jets job, like let you take Aaron Rodgers out of it, right? Because I think he's a weirdo and kind of washed at this point. But that's one of the better rosters in all football. You know why I don't trust it? Just a terrible franchise historically. Franchises that don't get it right tend not to get it right. Like, it seems like a no-brainer, but you know what I mean? Yeah. Like usually all of a sudden you don't have a franchise unless there's an ownership change or something like that, like major. That's why Houston was so shocking to me with the DeMeco Ryans situation. That was a kind of a dumpster fire of a situation at the end of Bill O'Brien, and then they hired Lovie Smith for God knows why. And then all of a sudden DeMeco Ryans comes.
Whoa. Why the Lovie hate?
Because he got fired at Illinois, and then he got an NFL job.
Sometimes that.
Yeah, I'm looking at him and Cliff Kingsbury. Those are the guys. Those are the two guys it's happened to.
Ravi Lulla here for out on Cliff.
It was not as an offensive coordinator. You can keep him as an OC.
Speaking of Cliff, how about the one that Cousins has fallen off of?
Yeah, I think, I don't know what to do with them because you're one game back in the division, but you were obviously trending in the wrong direction. Like at some point, do you pull the parachute and say, hey, Penix, let's give it a go?
I don't know, but I do feel good about what I said when they drafted Penix, and it wasn't just because I like him.
What's that?
He only has to sit a year.
Yeah, maybe not even that.
Oh.
If you want something to bet on, I would bet that Michael Penix starts a game before the end of the season. Is that crazy?
Confidence shot?
Cousins?
It's a bad stretch.
I don't know, man. I don't know
if it's his worst stretch, but over 3 weeks it might be.
He's been really, really bad, and I don't know. Like, it's really hard to tell at that age if it's confidence, if it's physical, coming off that injury. Like, I have no idea. He looked a little rough to start the year. He didn't look like this, though.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a bad, bad deal. I don't know much about what Kirk Cousins is going through. I will bet on Michael.
Do you want his last 5 games?
Yeah, let's do it.
3 touchdowns, 8 interceptions.
That's bad. No matter how you slice it. There is no good way around that.
That's incredible.
His completion percentage probably still okay.
66%.
Yeah, that's because that's kind of what he does. And his yardage is probably still pretty okay. But
who's the best team in that division for you?
Best team or the team I trust the most?
Oh gosh, you always have to.
You know me. I like my, I like my details.
Well, I think the answer is going to be the same.
I think I'm going to go Tampa for both.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Because you trust Mayfield.
Which is wild.
But Russell's right. They can score on anybody.
Yeah, I don't know about the defense.
Quietly, they've won, 2 or 3 in a row?
Yeah, they're at 3 in a row. And because they had, they had a rough stretch there because they started out okay, had a little rough stretch, feels like they figured it out. They're the only team in that division with plus point differential. And they're, ironically, the next closest team, not Atlanta, it's New Orleans.
So who was I looking at?
Atlanta's actually way worse than their record.
NFC West.
Yeah.
Look at the point differential.
Okay. Yeah, I'm there.
There's only one.
Yep. Seattle, the only team above.
That's it. That's plus.
San Francisco is at dead even. They're at 0.
Is that not crazy?
Yeah.
Only
wild.
One team in that division has a plus point differential.
Arizona's -5. They're all pretty close.
Yeah. Which is why you get the records
hyper competitive.
Yeah.
And why you know what? I still think Los Angeles is the best team in that division.
So I do too, kind of.
They're the team I trust the most.
You remember when I was asking that question earlier about the two franchises between the Rams and the Seahawks? Because I think their trajectory is about the same.
You know what though? I trust Stafford more than I trust Geno.
Yeah, McDonald's a really good coach, and I mean obviously McVay is
right.
Too,
yeah, I'm gonna call the coaching a wash. Maybe even slide edge.
No way.
I'm gonna go slide edge McVay.
I was gonna say, dude's won a Super Bowl.
No, I know, but I mean this year.
Oh,
like body of work.
Still,
body of work. Sure, it's McVay, but this year I think McDonald's done as good of a job as McVay has.
Yeah, I'd probably give. Although
the injuries,
the Rams were addressing a JV squad.
Yeah, the injury situation with McVay, that's why I said slide edge McVay. They've had to deal with more, but so I go slide edge McVay on the coaching, and I go huge edge Matthew Stafford, and I don't think the rosters are appreciably different talent-wise.
Young defenses, boy. I'm telling you, Seattle's physical.
They are. They're tough to play. That's a tough team to play. That's not a team you're going to have a lot of fun with, but I still think the Rams are the best team in that division. I'd bet on that.
Yeah, I don't know.
They dug themselves a hole, though.
I'm probably inclined to agree with you.
Is there any other? So here's I wanted to ask Russell about this, and we didn't get to it, but it's about your Pittsburgh Steelers. There are 3 teams in each conference with double-digit wins. The Steelers are one of them. They are the only one we don't talk about at all in that category, right? Because we talk about the Bills like that, right? They're coming off the loss this weekend, but we talk about the Bills that way.
Yeah.
We definitely talk about the Chiefs that way, although there's questions because they're like, I don't really know what they are. We definitely talk about Philly that way. We definitely talk about Detroit that way. Minnesota's the only other one, but because they got off to such a hot start, we do talk about them that way. Certainly more so than Pittsburgh. If you ask most people what Pittsburgh record was this year and they weren't paying attention, they'd probably guess they were, I don't know, 8-5, something like that. 7-6.
And I know I do sometimes talk about point differential, especially today, but it's top 5 in the league.
Plus 85.
That's good for, I think if you ranked them, I think it's good for 5th in the league.
It is 5th. Yeah. There are 4 teams ahead of them. It's Minnesota and Detroit, who we talked about, Philly, not Kansas City.
Is Detroit at 100 or Minnesota at 100 yet?
Minnesota is at 99.
And Detroit's got to be well over.
Yeah, Detroit's at 183. They've got the best in the league by
183.
60 points, I think. I think the next closest is the next closest is Buffalo at 129.
180. So I wouldn't have come within. I knew it was high. I wouldn't have come within 50 points.
I didn't even think I
wouldn't have come within 50 points of that.
They're 54 points clear of second place. They're 54 points clear of second place. That's unbelievable. That is Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook. Real quick before we get off this segment here, tonight you've got Bengals and Cowboys. Bengals are 5.5-point favorites.
Shoot, pass. I'll come back with one, though.
I think I'm taking Cowboys as the dogs at home. That's Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook. More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla, and we're brought to you by our friends at Fowling Warehouse Omaha. It's just like bowling, but with a football, and it's a ton of fun. DB and I went over there, tossed the old pigskin around a little bit. DB went into a full pitcher's windup at one point, which was actually very successful.
Yeah,
I was proud of that. You could see that. I'm sure there'll be a video of that somewhere at some point. But make sure you go to fowlingomaha.com. That's spelled just like bowling with an F, fowlingomaha.com, to see their hours.
They've got lots in there to.
Oh, yeah. They got lots of stuff, especially if you get a little ADHD like DB. There's lots of different places you can bounce around there. They got bags.
Yeah.
They got giant Jenga.
Apparently, you love the way that I throw bags.
I mean, you're not supposed to aim directly in the middle between the two of them.
I don't know what happens.
It's okay. It happens to the best of us.
Yeah, I mean, it was early. It was 11:30 in the day.
We've been up for 6 hours at that point, DB.
Yeah, minimum. I thought you told me to hit the one in the middle.
There was no one in the middle. There were two on each side. That might be. We should maybe talk about getting you some corrective vision. This wasn't like Mickey Mantle when he's hungover and he's like, "I'll hit the ball in the middle."
So I asked Brett. He had some that were kind of.
Don't you have a guy for that?
He was trying to show me something. I couldn't read it, so I asked another grown man to use his glasses. But so he's holding them or like I'm reading. I'm like, oh, these are kind of like breakable.
Yeah.
But they had some. They were, I guess, rigidity is probably the word. But and he's like, oh yeah, I buy these in bulk at like the dollar store. Why is that?
You may need to go see an eye doctor at some point.
So I have the one pair.
Yeah.
That I keep with me.
Just maybe get a couple pairs. Maybe keep one in your bag.
So that's what he said. He's got one for the track. Like he's got them.
Yeah, got them all over.
Everywhere.
Got them stashed.
Yeah.
But you can.
It wasn't near the right magnification.
I know. I've seen you use other people's glasses before. You use it like a magnifying glass. You're like trying to find the right range with it.
Some days I don't know what it is. I just don't see as well. And some days it's better.
You might need to get that checked out. That's probably
sometime.
Probably get that checked out deal.
Sometime.
Just like you should check out fowlingomaha.com. You said you were going to have a winner for me. What do you got?
So it's early.
Okay. It's late in the show though. We only got so much time left.
I know, but I don't like to be wrong. So I know. Only like to give out winners.
We like winners.
I like Indiana.
Indiana?
Yeah, laying the 10.
Oof. You know how I feel about Indiana, man. I don't know.
Yeah, laying the 10.
I don't know, man.
Minnesota, it's early.
You're trusting Mike Woodson?
You can enjoy it. It's because you berate him so much.
You feel good about that?
Yeah. You wouldn't. I couldn't even talk you into the fact he was average.
No, he's not average. He's bad.
Yeah.
Actively bad.
I like it.
He is a detriment to his ball club. Detriment. Although I was talking to Dee Marinas on Wednesday, I think, because we were watching the Kansas game together.
Yeah.
For Creighton, and he was giving me a hard time about crushing Woodson, and I go, okay, tell me this though, not just guys that I don't like, because there's some guys that I like that I know or that I don't like that I know are good coaches, like Hurley, right? Don't like him, know he's a good coach. Shaka, don't like him, know he's a good coach. But of the guys that I actively don't think are good coaches, at least in basketball, how many times do I actually miss?
No, I would say not a ton.
Yeah. Like I in general, like I'll miss.
I'll give you that. I would say not a ton.
I'll miss some in football. I'll own that, right? Because I wasn't sure if Deion could actually coach, and I wasn't able to separate. Do I like him? Do I not like him? Can he actually coach? Right? So I'll miss some in football, but in basketball, if I say a guy can't coach, he probably can't coach. I'm just gonna
put that out there.
Your guy Hubert Davis is on that list too.
Don't even get me started. Why did you have to? Of all the why did you have to use?
Because that's another guy at a blue blood, got a big name, that is not doing much.
Did you know that the line? What was it? I think UConn was a dog yesterday against Texas. I think
you're right. I'm going to check real quick. I think you're right, though.
And I only glanced. Like I said, I was talking to Brett. So I only glanced at that game.
Mm-hmm.
Were they ever behind?
I don't think so.
It seemed like they were pretty. But Texas isn't ranked, right?
No, Texas is not ranked, and UConn was beating their head in at halftime.
Okay.
I mean, it was. Yeah, I don't think they ever. They're maybe early, like a couple minutes.
Yeah, I think they were an underdog.
But they were beating their brains in pretty much the whole way. I'm trying to find the line here. I was too busy looking at the game graph to see if they were ever behind. They were not. They were not ever behind. I don't really understand that one. I know UConn struggled a little bit, but that's a team I'm probably going to give the benefit of the doubt. Yeah, they were 1.5-point dogs.
Yeah.
To Texas. Now it's a roadie, but still.
That game on a Sunday afternoon was strange. Just like Texas Tech and
there were a lot of pretty decent games yesterday afternoon.
No, I agree.
For college basketball.
For later in the day, too.
Which is weird. Generally, they try and avoid Sundays. But
I thought that was going to be a thing now.
Yeah, I thought
Sundays were going to, as the season wore on, we're going to be back in the thing.
Yeah, but usually they wait till the NFL's like winding down. Like they usually wait till the NFL's in the playoffs. So you
don't have a team playing 3 games in 15 days like the Steelers?
No, I mean for college basketball.
I just wanted to weave that in.
Yeah, you're just complaining again.
Yeah, but still.
I thought that was the BCD. We don't do any of that around here.
Yeah, no BCD.
No blaming, complaining,
or
deflecting.
I see.
Couldn't remember what the last one was.
Yeah, but you got Mike's. But you got his down to a science.
Yeah, GWCCSA.
Right.
That's what we do. It doesn't really roll off the tongue, although I do like the principle.
I like it.
Maybe need to find something a little bit shorter or like an acronym that I can just say instead of Gwukasa. It's not. It doesn't.
Well.
Oh my gosh.
What?
Gwukasa.
Gwukasa. GWCCSA.
Probably not saying that.
No? Why not?
I don't know. We got to get into these bowls tomorrow, too, because I got to get your thoughts on a couple of these.
We'll get into
especially in the Big Ten.
We'll get into some bowls. What? Give me a little teaser. Which
like
one?
A&M and SC. Who do you feel you know more about?
I think you can tell by my face I don't like it at all.
I just don't trust those guys to rally around Lincoln.
I got A&M. It's A&M.
That's going to be an interesting.
I trust A&M to rally around Elko way more than I trust anything about Lincoln Riley and USC. Let's get to we got our guy Denny calling in last second here, getting one up before the buzzer. What's going on, Denny?
What's up, fellas?
How you doing?
What's up, buddy?
I just live in large, but that's Thanksgiving's fault.
Whoa.
So, we've been talking about so many things today. And, of course, one of the things that I haven't heard talked about yet, and I just want you guys to kind of think this through and then kind of respond to, and it's about this 105 roster, right? We're going to see a lot of senior guys exit, whether it be obviously the graduations and stuff like that. We already have a very young roster. Are we in danger of having a very young roster as this all shakes out down to a 105 number? What's you guys' thoughts on that?
Oh, shoot. That's good. I appreciate the call, Denny. So, all right. I think he's right.
Well, it depends on what you mean. Because they don't lose that many seniors. Now, there's some impactful guys.
Well, there was 30, right?
I counted 19 that weren't walk-ons.
Okay.
So, but you're losing some impactful guys. You're losing a Ben Hart. You're losing a Ben Scott. You're losing Ty and Nash. You're losing Giff. So you've got like some impactful starter guys. I'm sure I'm missing some, but those are the 5 off the top of my head. But
I had written this down.
It's a smaller freshman class, so I think that matters.
You talking about the 20-something that they just took?
2025, yeah. They took 20. It's 20 guys, right? Which is a relatively small recruiting class. You've got now, so they're young, right? Because you've got big freshmen and redshirt freshmen and sophomore classes from their first 2 guys, or from their first 2 classes under Rule. So you're still going to be young, but those guys they're older than they're going to be on the mean. But most of those guys are still going to be juniors or under juniors, right? You're still talking about a ton of underclassmen in that group. They're going to be older than they were this year. The thing is not what the roster construction is made up of. It's that you're going to have to rely on more of those guys. That's why it's going to.
So far we're at 16, right? You got Butler, Bear, Coleman, Mame Wellen, Irvin, Stephon Thompson, Williams, Wallen, Vincent Jackson, Boodle, Mason Jones, Tagaloa, Evans, Hall, Kalen, Safula. You got no Banks, no Benhart, no Bullock, no Bushini, no Gifford, no Hill, no Hutmaker. So that's 13, 16 minus 13. 29. What RC Castaneda come back?
I think yes.
I think no.
You don't think so?
Ramir Johnson?
No.
Really?
I don't know. I mean,
Okay.
I don't think so.
Nair? No.
No.
Right.
Sear? Javen. Yes.
Okay. What do you do with Corcoran?
If he wants to come back, I think you let him come back. I mean, we talked about this with needing a veteran presence on that offensive line. I don't know if you can count on him, but I think he'll take him back.
So you've got just D-line. You've got Peckshaw, Simpson, Davis, Murphy, Ochoa, Hofkin. I have to go through this. How young will Nebraska be? Probably very.
I think they're going to be very young on guys they have to rely on. It's going to be really young for guys they have to rely on.
Yeah, because I think that secondary changes at least a couple more times too.
Yeah, I would agree. It'll be interesting to see.
I got my homework for tonight. Will they be young? I'm gonna text him, see what he means by how young is young.
For sure. We'll get into that tomorrow and so much more. We'll dig into these bowl games a little bit as well. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. It's Hurrdat Sports Radio.